right, I think we should be live now. And if you're listening in the chat, let us know how we're sounding because we are seeming to have some connectivity issues. But we are here. We're excited. It's TMC podcast you're listening to. Today we're talking about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And we're joined by two of my favorite podcast hosts out there right now, the hosts of Folkwise Live, Daisy and Dom. Daisy and Dom, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? We'll start with Daisy.
Yeah. Hey everybody. I am the one who's behind the scenes and doing a lot of the moderating for Folkwise Live. I am a folklorist. I'm a PhD student at the Ohio State University, and I just love folklore and get so hyped when Tommy's in the chat every single week consistently for our show. It's pretty amazing. I'm glad to be here and so excited to chat with you all today.
What about you, Dom?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on Pop Moms today. Daisy and I are very excited to play a one-shot campaign of 5th edition and test out various strands of non-THC smokable flower on this very special episode, CBD and D&D with D&D. But hi, I'm working on that one for months. I'm Dom, and I'm the host of Folkwise Live. You can see me playing video games with folklorists and then interviewing them about their work every Tuesday on Twitch. Daisy's my co-host. Aloysius P. Tickles here is in the chat every week. And I'm also I have a PhD in folklore, and I'm just so excited to be here talking about such a folky movie.
Yeah, no, I was glad this one was chosen, by our audience. It's one that, and we'll get to this a little bit later. I was always a big Coen Brothers fan, but maybe not necessarily one I gravitated to on my first watch. So that we picked this, got to rewatch it. I'm glad to have you guys on because, as we've all mentioned, I'm a huge fan. I'm in the chat, and I think that this is not just a great film, but a great opportunity for us who may be not so familiar with folklore to learn a little bit more about it. Before we jump into that, don't forget to rate, like, subscribe down below, and do all that fun stuff. Get over to the Facebook group and join in the fun there. And and we're getting some robot-y sounds out here. We're going to try to push through this, I think. And then, we'll kind of maybe have to restart this in a second if it doesn't get better. We talked about just how this has kind of reignited my love for folklore, but for the people who are out there, again, maybe not big folklorists like myself before I discovered you guys, just maybe give us a quick little overview. What is folklore? It's a big umbrella. What all falls underneath it?
Dom, you want to jump in or you want me to jump in?
I thought you were going to ask me to do the definition I said once that you love.
I kind of want to, but we have to explain it before it's funny, I think.
Okay. You start.
Okay. I would say that the most common answer you'll get from folklorists about what folklore is a definition that Dr. Dan Benamos came up with called which is artistic communication in small groups, which to me is all of the little kinds of creative, expressive ways that you connect and relate to your community, whether that's a family or an organization that you're part of, or it could be regional identity. There's many different forms of that community, and so all of the little ways that you're expressing yourself every day as being a member of that community. But Dom is a more fun definition and we like to play around with what we actually study because it can be quite complicated sometimes for students to or friends to get what we actually do, and this is a good one. So Dom.
Yeah, I like to say I'm a tradition doctor. But someone I once explained folklore to someone and they said, "Oh, so it's like the study of house rules." And it's the study of house rules. That definition extended beyond board games to the house rules of everything. So that's what I do for a living. I look at the little traditions that everyone has, whether it's a small group of people or an entire nationality, ethnic group, occupation, etc. That's what I that's what I like.
And the house rules example is really good because it's like everybody's playing the same game, but depending on where you are, the rules are slightly different, right? So everybody is part of these larger constructions of culture or ritual or whatever, but when you do it at home, it always looks a little bit different. And that's the interesting part to folklorists.
Yeah, and the interesting part I think is when those things intersect, right?
Yeah.
When one house, you're so used to one set of house rules, and you kind of come into contact with a whole new, different way of doing things. And then what happens, kind of just even if it's not even a conscious thing, it could be subconscious. You bring the things you like from those house rules to your own and incorporate them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. I know you guys said you guys are on Twitch on Tuesday nights, but how can people support Folkwise Live who are out there listening? Maybe they want to, perhaps Patreon or different ways that they can support you guys throughout the chat.
There's a bunch of ways. We have a link tree that'll probably be the fastest way to get to all of our main information for support, or for if you want to check us out on different platforms. It's linktr.ee/folkwise, one word, FOLKWISE. And that has links to everything, but you can watch us live on Twitch. Dom very quickly and wonderfully edits all of the highlights from the VODs, puts them on YouTube. There's a link to our YouTube channel there. You can watch us there. We have a Patreon. You can watch us on Twitch, and you can subscribe to us there to get you can get notifications for when we're live. We're working on a couple other shows right now. We've got some stuff in the works, which is really cool. We've got PayPal, all kinds of stuff that you can do.
For sure.
But yeah, you can follow us on like Instagram. We post a bunch of different types of content too. It's not just our main interview. We make memes. We talk about them. It's really fun.
Yeah, and some of the topics folklore-wise that you guys have covered, anything from ghosts to
Yes.
food gathering customs in Appalachia,
Mhm.
the way we, protest, basically, and that's the thing. I would challenge anyone who perhaps says they're not into folklore to tune in, and I would say if you even just keep an eye on what the topics are, I would guess something eventually is going to kind of tickle your fancy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure.
The fun part about the show is that we get to talk about so many different topics that have to do with tradition, and therefore get to play so many video games that relate to that. That it's a lot of it's even if we're playing the same game twice, it's always something new every week.
Yes.
And I like to think that we have really good guests here on TMC. You guys also get awesome guests. Really good guests.
Thank you.
Yeah,
really,
we
really
love
good
the
guest.
people who've been able to get on our show.
It's been an amazing thing to
Yeah.
watch, and I've really enjoyed it. And I guess I'll just kind of touch on this. In fact, the show, it's not one of these things. I'm a stay-at-home dad now. I love the show so much. It's actually kind of made me consider going back to school for folklore as a history major. So perhaps maybe at one of those American Folklore Society meetings, you'll eventually run into Aloysius P. Tickles.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Oh my gosh, that would be
dressed like this. Yeah,
that would be incredible, and you could be. Oh my gosh, at Ice and FireCon, you could become part of our group house. That's folklorists who also attend Ice and FireCon.
Yeah. We're slowly taking over Ice and
Yeah,
FireCon.
we're turning everybody into folklorists. If you want to talk Ice and FireCon folklore, let's do that another time, because that's a fun a fun conversation we've had.
I would love to learn more about it. I'm a one-time attendee, and I had mentioned when I was just on History of Westeros that perhaps some folks there might recognize you guys from the Westeros the musical, which I don't think I ever connected the dots. You guys play father and son.
Father and son.
Kind of.
Not only
father and son now.
Yeah,
we do. We play father and son a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Really?
And we're working. We're working on some other
Shadow Baby.
Yeah, I was Stannis' Shadow Baby.
Obviously, Robert and Joffrey. Stannis the Shadow Baby.
And then I was Edric Storm.
Yeah.
The only one I played Jon Snow too, but that wasn't really. And then we're working on some Fire Emblem Three Houses cosplays that could result in another father son dynamic.
Father-son moment. Yeah. We're in this. Yeah, but I'm basically a new dad.
Yeah,
We'll have you on the next podcast. We're starting season 2 real soon.
Yeah, talking about Robert Baratheon or something.
That's right. Being a dad, but not being a dad.
Yeah.
No, and it's funny because you guys both were people that stood out to me at Ice and Fire Con, but it was just, I was just too intimidated to approach for one reason or another. In fact, true story. Dom can confirm this. When you guys released Westeros the musical, the day it was released on YouTube, I blew him and Brian up and was
my gosh, yes.
And I was like, hey, I've been playing your version of Dear Theodosia on repeat all day, and it's totally made my day. I know this is totally, I'm like, this sounds really weird because I'm a stranger, right? But I just wanted you guys to know you guys made my day.
You're family now.
Yeah. That's the only version.
If you're in chat, you're family.
Yeah.
Especially now that you're in Twitch chat with us.
Yes, definitely.
But no, that feels good to hear. But no, and it's like it's a genuine thing. I really, really love your guys' show. So, and I try to, as a content creator, and I'm sure you guys probably fall into this. If you've ever worked in the service industry, you probably tip a little bit better. I liken it to that. If you're a content creator, I think you go out of your way a little bit above and beyond to try to support other content creators, especially the ones you enjoy.
Yeah,
totally.
So we talked about such, again, I keep beating a dead horse, but, folklore being this giant umbrella. Some of your guys' favorite areas are probably reasons that I was drawn to you. Daisy, we'll start with you. Cryptids.
Yes.
Explain how cryptids fall into the world of folklore. And maybe explain what cryptids are to our listeners.
Definitely. So my definition of a cryptid is a creature or a being that exists in the world that has contested existence. So these are like your Bigfoots, your chupacabras, your Jersey Devils. These are all of the creatures and beings that people say exist or they don't say that they exist, but what's interesting is that conversation that happens rather than whether or not they actually exist, in my opinion. Does that make sense? I'm more interested in why people keep talking about them and why there's this cycle that goes back and forth about whether or not they exist, rather than the truth or the core or the fact of that central question. And so this fits into folklore because it's sort of unofficial dialogue or conversation or parts of culture that get perpetuated just by people having random encounters or people hearing about it from friends, or that one time you went camping when you were like 12 and walked a little bit too far off the path and saw something you didn't really see in your usual life. So I think that is really fascinating to me, and the way it relates to my research in folklore is that I study ecology and environmental sort of conservation, and in particular extinction, and there are some interesting animals that have gone extinct, or at least been categorized as extinct by like dominant culture, but people still see them today, and that their own existence or their extinction itself is contested. So I put them in this category of cryptid, and it fits, the way I think about them fits a lot in this sort of like, well, why are people claiming that they exist? What is the pushback? Like who where is that kind of conversation happening? So I think that that's really interesting.
No, I think that's fascinating. And one example of that, which is one of your favorites, is a thylacine, correct?
Yes.
Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, Tasmanian tiger. Tasmanian devil
Tasmanian
is slightly different. I know, it's very confusing. It has many names.
and I've heard you say that, so I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, no worries.
So would a giant squid kind of fall into that category too?
Yes, and it's interesting because there is evidence of the existence of giant squids. So I think maybe less so, but that is another interesting kind of gray area, right? Where like we don't really have them on film per se, or they occupy a space that's like inaccessible to people. And therefore the like authority who has the jurisdiction over what does and doesn't exist, gets to say, I don't know, it's like an interesting kind of authority that we take. I think that a giant squid's an interesting spot for that conversation.
like you said, Greg, because they would, you know, when you're saying the gray area, we would have their bodies wash ashore, correct?
Right. Or there's also evidence of large squids. I don't know how giant squid, but in like the bodies of sperm whales or other kinds of animals that dive really deep and then end up on the surface. So that's kind of interesting too. Or yeah, there's lots of I like the evidence piece is fun because it plays into the like, look, I have evidence. Look at the questions of the contesting of that existence based in evidence, and the evidence itself is oftentimes contested as like being real. Like people have footprints, for example, or like bits of hair, but a lot of it gets debunked because like we have DNA analysis now, or like yeah, it's really interesting. So something like that, like a giant squid, or like dissecting a sperm whale and saying like this is the giant squid. It's like, was it a giant squid or is it just a regular squid? I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Hearing that the internet's a little bit better, hopefully that stays the case.
Yeah.
And maybe, and I'm really good at this, you guys can attest, for asking questions that the guests don't know. Or just
also you always send the best questions. Yeah, you send us the questions ahead of time. You always ask us the best questions, and the guests love it because it's so great, the questions you ask, because you know, Dom and I and our sleuth team, the people who help curate the questions, we all have a folklore perspective, so we're thinking about their work in a very particular way. And it's great to get questions just like from a general audience, or from people who are really interested in the kind of work that are so different than what we're asking, but are also completely relevant to their work. Like it's so cool. Yeah.
It's like the idiot's guide coming and asking you guys questions to help pull it out a little bit. Like, oh, let's.
But you ask really smart questions, though. I don't mean to
you ask idiotic questions. You ask smart questions that people have been asked in academia.
Well, you guys have to say that you're on my show now.
Well, I would anyway.
Well, no. So I was going to ask. There was I think some sort of leopard, and I don't want to call it the cloud leopard or the clouded leopard, but there was in Taiwan. Isn't that they recently found evidence that they thought was extinct?
Yes. And that's really interesting too. There's like all of these animals that like people haven't seen for like 50, 60, 70, 100 years that sort of like resurface. Another really good example of this that's pretty popular is like a coelacanth, which is a huge fish. And I only bring it up as something people might know because it's featured in Animal Crossing. And it's an animal that has basically remained like unchanged since dinosaur times. But so there's fossil record of it. So scientists thought it was extinct. Nobody had seen one in a long time. And all of a sudden one of them got caught up in a fishing net, and people were like, what is this weird thing? So it's the same thing. Yeah. With like these like clouded leopards, or there's a lot of amphibians that are like this, lots of really small animals this happens to, but it's always weird when it's a big animal, like a cat, right? Or like like a large feline, or something that just gets completely missed. It just shows how many possibilities there are for like hidden spaces in our world that the creatures could be hiding, including Bigfoot. So it just adds to the narrative, right? Of maybe Bigfoot is out there.
Cloud leopard sounds like a rapper who's blowing up on SoundCloud right now. Or like,
and then I mentioned Animal Crossing, and I was like, Bianca, let's go.
Bianca.
We love our Animal Crossing villagers.
That's right. You could. That was an episode.
Yes,
you guys got to go.
Go
to everyone's islands. That blew my mind because I've actually been looking at. I've heard a bunch of people, a lot of them in your circle, talking about Animal Crossing. I wanted to get a Nintendo Switch just for that, and then seeing just how elaborate it was just really drove home the want desire. Daisy, really quick before we get to Dom, so cryptids are one huge area of interest for you in the folklore. Anything else randomly? We don't have to go super deep, but do you want to just list off some other
Yeah, sure. So this is that was kind of where I started doing a lot of academic work, and that centered around cryptids and like legends specifically. So particular types of narratives that we tell, or like what makes a legend different from a myth or a joke, or what other, these sorts of frameworks. And then recently I've been really interested in this kind of like narrative framework surrounding threatened and endangered species. So species that do exist and are on their way out, so to speak, because of extinction and climate change, like that. And then how communities form around these animals, and particularly how policy, like local policy shapes people's interactions with these animals. So I'm in Ohio. I've been doing a lot of work with the eastern hellbender salamander, which is the largest salamander native to the United States. It's lives all around Appalachia, and there's a lot of really
How big
interesting
do they
stuff. About 2 feet long, pretty big. Yeah, pretty big.
Yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
guy.
So if you find one, it could really, you would know. And yeah, they're very fascinating, and the ways that people are using their endangered or threatened status to make an argument for getting, say, like conservation easements put on their land is really interesting. So if you find one on your property, you can say, oh, I'll get a conservation easement, and that way other more invasive or extractive companies like coal or like the coal industry can't come and try to buy up the mineral rights to like your property or underneath your property. It's very interesting. So I
Very
do
cool.
this like blend of local community conservation kind of work, and then how that relates on different like scales of policy.
Which again, like to someone like myself, before watching a show like Folkwise live,
Yeah.
I would have never understood. Like I would have never
Yeah.
connected that to folklore.
Yes.
I would have been like, well, that sounds like public service or policy or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Dom, let's get to you. Now, some of your interest in folklore really intersect with a love of mine. This is food.
Yes. Yes.
We're talking to the Sausage King of Bloomington, correct?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
I've lived in Bloomington for a couple of years. Maybe someone has usurped me, but when I left, I was the Sausage King of Bloomington, Indiana. You're right.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm allowed to tell the story because I'm mining it from a private group, but I had heard that when you had a visiting professor coming to IU from China, I believe.
Yeah.
One of your professors introduced you to this visiting professor, and they said, "Oh, of course I know Dom. He's the Sausage King of Bloomington." Is this correct?
This is correct. This is correct. My reputation preceded me. My love of hot dogs preceded me. Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote my dissertation on hot dog eating contests across the United States. You're looking like a throwback to the MCs at hot dog eating contests right now.
Yes.
Honestly. It's a very like 1920s aesthetic that they go for at those. But that is to say, really what I love studying is like the intersection of like food and festivals. It's like festival food, that's my big intersection. I love festivals because they're like everything about folklore at once. They're like these public community events where people like reinforce their like group identity like out loud around people, and also there's like there's always like specific traditions, customs, dance, music, food. And in America, for some reason, it's often hot dogs and or some sort of tubed meat and how many you can eat. So yeah, that's a lot of what I studied in graduate school. I also I came to graduate school thinking I was going to study myth. So mythology was big for me. And I mean, I also come from like a musical family. I grew up with a lot of like Italian folk songs in the house all the time. So folk music has always been like a part of my life too.
That's like kind of a good observation too, Dom, because I think a lot of people, like when they hear about folklore, or they start thinking about folklore, it starts with narrative, and then you realize it's so much bigger than narrative, and that you can like tell stories with objects or by dancing or being in space or like all of these other things. It's like your mind gets blown. You start thinking like, oh, folklore is probably just about like old fairy tales or whatever, and then you realize like, no, it's music and costume and all of these other kinds of celebrations. And it's like why people collect Funko Pops, and it's all kinds of stuff, right? Like there's so much there.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And and I am someone who's eaten quite a few hot dogs. So I think that's probably goes along with that. That helps the look be a little convincing. Also, I think that the folk music thing is going to be huge, theme in the discussion today about the movie. So I think that's going to come, really in handy. Now, when you say festivals, you're not just talking about music. You're talking about any sort of festival that might sprout up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Talk about the parade down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oktoberfest being probably the most fun I had, like doing like like schoolwork, like for my dissertation. It was always such a delight to have to go to Oktoberfest in Cincinnati every year. But yeah, basically, whether it's Oktoberfest, 4th of July, Mardi Gras, as long as there's like a bunch of people in public celebrating the same thing in the same way, that's what I'm talking about.
And you kind of created your own festivals in college surrounding, which this makes a lot of sense now, knowing that you're hosting a show where you kind of intersect video game playing and folklore. It was a recent guest you had. You guys were talking about your Mario Kart tournaments and that's a form of folklore, a festival, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was like every month we had like a whole group of people who would get together and we would I don't know, anywhere from like around 16 to 25-ish people, kind of different people every month even. But yeah, we would have like these all-day Smash tournaments. There would be food, there would be drinks, there would be weird esoteric rituals, there would be shouting, there would be laughter, there would be costumes, there would be music. It was so great. It was like a little thing we did once a month, but like everyone was performing the like group identity to each other. My roommate said it was like a company of Tolkien dwarves will come over once a month.
It was great. Even though like there was like folklore that surrounds the winning photography, where it was like I thought that was really just super interesting and hilarious. But we are going to talk about Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I think this is.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we could keep talking about this forever, but
yeah. I mean, I really could.
Watch the show. Well, yeah.
For sure. Tune in tomorrow. Yeah. You guys will
watch all the highlights on YouTube.
That's right. But there's a lot of folklore in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which is
so much.
It's great to have you guys here to talk about it. And it's great to have people smarter than me because. Daisy, you had mentioned, you have quite a few accolades under your belt. You didn't mention that you also studied film too.
Yeah.
What'd you do? Look at my stuff.
No, you had mentioned it.
I guess I did. Yeah, I guess I did.
You did mention it.
Yeah. So in my undergrad, I got a film studies certificate because I think film is really interesting and it's a fun, complex way to tell a story. There's so many different elements that you need to take into account. So I love the Coen Brothers. I've seen a ton of their films, and I definitely have some thoughts about the way that they filmed this movie, which I think is really interesting, especially in relation to like how the public understands traditional stuff. Yeah.
Well, and there was a lot. I'm glad to have you on here because in doing research for this, there was a lot that I was reading that it sounded like it was the first time it was used, in film that they were doing. Yeah. And I just, I'd love to mention it, but I just don't know enough about it. So having someone on that knows more, and I was a media studies minor, so I should know. I should know a little bit more about it than I do. But yeah, let's jump into some of the folklore in this movie. I just in my notes I'd kind of jotted down a couple things that I caught. I'm gonna just run through them really quickly, and then once I run through them, if you guys want to maybe just touch on each one of these and how they kind of either show up in folklore or are a part of folklore. The movie kind of starts off with the blind oracle, and again, you guys will hit on some that I missed for sure. But we have the blind oracle, the gentleman on the train by himself as he's pushing, and he kind of makes a prediction about the cow on the counting or on the counting house, and you have Tommy Johnson, who's also kind of fits under the historical references of the movie, who is a real blues musician, and the folklore surrounding him was that he made a deal with the devil and sold his soul at the crossroads. Which we'll get to this a little bit later. I think that there is a long-standing connotation with the devil and the crossroads long before this. The sirens, of course, are part of folklore, and that's what I got. We're going to talk about how it relates to the Odyssey and Homer later, but as far as just what my observations. So you guys want to touch on Blind Oracle, Tommy Johnson, the devil at the crossroads, and then the sirens, and then we'll get into what you guys caught. Start with Tom.
I'm like, where do we begin?
Start with
yeah.
Tom. Go ahead.
Well, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, like you said, like the devil at the crossroads is a that's like a motif that is cross-cultural that like pops up all over the place. I was one of my majors in college was classics, and I did like my final project about Hecate, who is like a what they call a chthonic, like an underworld goddess in ancient Greece, and she would like come out of the underworld from the crossroads with dogs surrounding her, and that that's always what I go to.
Not Cerberus, right?
What? No,
Cerberus?
no, with her
own hellhounds.
Her own like hellhounds. Yeah, one-headed good boys.
Yeah.
That's what I go to when Tommy's talking about the warden in this movie, that like I mean specifically Everett is saying like many types of imps and demons, but the great Satan is a reddish color, a bifurcated tail, carries a pitchfork.
Right. I love that.
That's like a certain like European like tradition, but there are like like older beings that come from the underworld that come out during the crossroads. But yeah, a lot of folklore about meeting like an underworld being at the crossroads. Something I think is so funny is that like Tommy Johnson is like one of the two main blues guitarists with the surname Johnson, who has a legend associated about selling his soul at the crossroads.
Yeah,
because Robert Johnson has the same legend too, and they're both like both blues greats who kind of because like when they were when they were active, they both like I think kind of died abruptly, but when they were active, they're like we weren't really at like the peak of recording technology, so they only have like a small catalog of songs that are like endlessly covered. They're like just like blues and like blues rock standards. Yeah, but this whole thing about going to the crossroads, like one of the like legendary crossroads in America where like the devil will meet you is on Highway 61, like what Bob Dylan references, and
I would assume 66, but
no, yeah. You would assume, but no, yeah,
61.
Yeah.
But that's I'll give you that on Crossroads if Daisy wants to tag in on another one too.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much we could talk about. So the Blind Oracle stuff is really interesting to me because another like side interest of mine with folklore is how disability is represented. And this is like, I mean, blindness giving access to knowledge or some kind of elevated like information or sight is something that exists. I mean, it's beyond just the Odyssey, right? This is like Odin, yes, Arya Stark, Odin. This is like a trope or sort of like theme or motif in literature that exists eternally. I guess I say literature, but it's really in all kinds of storytelling because it gets connected and brought. We hear it from all these places and bring it into new stories and new iterations. So, I think that the Blind Oracle, that like it begins and ends at the film, just like the Odyssey does. I think it's interesting to think about that representation, which is so obviously like from, to me, the text that they were riffing off of, compared to the sound recording guy whose name is escaping me right now, but the audio guy that the three like go up to and
Stephen
record.
Root's character.
Yeah. And like that, I find to be a pretty like kind of offensive caricature of what it means to be blind. And I think that juxtaposition is interesting. Not that like the first like representation is that much better, but it's so clearly like literary and it's so
like
traditional, like direct reference, where this sort of like caricature I think is funny, but also being able in the same way to maybe it's not access to knowledge, but access to like sound is another like in the sort of like repurposed trope of this, like just because you're blind you're better at hearing music and know what's going to sound good or whatever. I think is like maybe a modern or like a more modern iteration of this. But yeah, I see it everywhere though. It's like one of those things that when you see it you can't unsee it, like yeah.
Yeah, and the disability or trauma, leading to some sort of, supernatural ability. I love
insightfulness, or like
it's all over comic. It's basically all comic books, right? That's essentially like the heart of them. And I love that. There's the scene with where Ulysses George Clooney is kind of explaining, when you take away one sense, it's pretty natural that you're gonna have
like. Yeah.
That's Daredevil.
There's that. And then the Devil at the Crossroads. Just one other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on in that scene, the scene in the actual movie where Tommy Johnson is talking about the devil. One thing I thought that was interesting, and again, it's not necessarily an original thought in doing research. I saw someone else mention this, but the description fits the sheriff who's chasing them perfectly.
Yes. Well, that's I think the flames and the glasses. Like I think it's pretty clear like who is the devil of the film.
Yeah, I thought that was again something I missed, and just maybe other people did as well, as we're kind of touching on it. What about the sirens? How do they kind of are they part of folklore, or is that more mythology?
I'm trying to think.
First I want to say, definitely mythology is under the big umbrella of folklore. That being like, I probably define mythology as like the sacred stories, like the stories that people who believe, like people in the in-group believe are like the realer than real stories about where we come from. So like at some point, we talk about, we're going to talk about the Odyssey as if it's like traditional literature or something, but like, 4,000 years ago in Greece, this was like the real story. The Iliad and the Odyssey were like, oh, this is when the gods had to pick a side between East and West, who they liked more. It's like a part of the origin of the universe. But as things get passed down, it's always interesting to like come into contact with like sacred stories that you personally don't find sacred, but I just think I still think they're like very interesting to study for how people like believe in them.
Well, for sure. And not to offend anyone, but it's, how some people probably look at the Bible, correct?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think like the evangelists of the Bible, they like think like the New Testament, they're like tying it into it's a conversation for another podcast, but it's real interesting how they play with a lot of folklore tropes. They try to like situate it in history so people can go like, oh yeah, Tiberius Caesar, he's the guy, but then also like they John's gospel flashes back to the beginning of creation and be like, oh yeah, this is where we all come from. I think the Bible itself is a real interesting study in belief and narrative. Yeah.
Right. But just like, kind of connecting to the original thought was like, that's how people looked at the Odyssey and the Iliad at a time.
Yeah.
Now, just one other really quick thought I just had. Daisy, you said something that I thought was really interesting in respect of folklore, which was that you're not so much interested in whether or not cryptids exist or not, but you're interested in why people talk about the existence of them.
Yes.
Now, for the Devil at the Crossroads, as you guys were both talking about it, or as Dom was talking about it, and then Daisy, you started talking about the blind oracle, I started to have this thought. Part of it thinks is, why is it such a common phenomenon in folklore? Is it possible that, I want to kind of pose two questions. Is it possible, the first question, that crossroads represent decisions? We come to a crossroads, we have to make a decision. And a lot of times when we come to make a decision, how has that decision been framed? And again, I don't know if this is folklore or popular culture, at least a devil and an angel, right? So you have one side, one road going one way, one road going another way. So here you are, you have to kind of meet the devil at the crossroads. You have to make your decision. You have to kind of figure out, are you going to make the great decision or the good decision, or are you going to make the evil decision? So that's one question. Could it possibly be a manifestation of that? And in the situation of specifically Tommy Johnson and Robert Johnson, where this folklore sprouted up. Surely, these guys had supernatural, I say supernatural, but just they're very talented musicians.
Yes.
Is really what it was. It's not supernatural. It's just a significant talent. But because of the racism that existed in the time, it was unacceptable for white people to really acknowledge that a black man could be that much better than them at playing an instrument. So we'll start with the first one with the decisions in the crossroads, and then get to the second part about the historical, more specific question.
My mind is like going a mile a minute right now.
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking about it. I'm
no.
just really nervous to be on camera with you two.
Oh my gosh!
I
Wow,
think
this is
there
so
are
interesting. Yeah.
There's also like entire schools of thought around folklore that
Yes.
like the word you said, manifestation, that are all about like
Mhm.
what is the thing I don't want to say out loud that I'm like saying like I'm coding in a story.
Yes.
Yeah, but I definitely think
Yeah.
that like that would that fits in, and I can't tell you. I bet like if I had to drop a name, I bet Jack Santino is probably the folklorist who has written that paper you're describing about like crossroads and choices.
Yes.
And like it's a space between four directions, and you have to choose. And there are all these stories about like choosing a momentous decision in your life because it's a manifestation of choice and blah blah blah. Yeah, no, that is a salient point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And speaking of like the allusion to like in betweenness, or what happens in between the space of dualisms, or like two choices. This is to bring it back to cryptids, is one of the reasons I'm interested in the conversation about whether or not they exist, but also like does it matter if we keep talking about the thing that's in the middle? Like, people are always pitched with choices, and I'm curious about why people get so uncomfortable with what's happening in between the two sides, right? So you do eventually usually have to make a choice, or that's the idea, is that you're supposed to make a choice. So the crossroads is interesting, like, which side do you end up choosing, but also like, does the thing or does the thing not exist? Like, that is the anxiety that gets expressed in a lot of these conversations, I think. So whether it's like cryptids or crossroads or other sorts of I don't know, like stories about choice and advice and things that you're supposed to do, what happens if you don't choose either, or if the whether you choose at all is not the interesting part to me. It's like, why do people keep fixating on the anxiety about that stuff?
Yeah.
That reminds me very much of and I can't remember the video game it was, but it was like where you had to walk around an office room and it was kind of empty.
Oh my gosh.
Stanley Parable.
The Stanley Parable. Oh,
we got kind of big brain on that.
Yeah, that got big brain, right? Well, I mean,
that's a great game.
Yeah, and that was a great episode. If you want to go back and watch an episode, just get really abstract about it. Okay, so what did I miss? I see you guys both.
Oh my gosh.
Dom, you had more specific, kind of examples, and a lot of them related back to the Odyssey.
Yeah, much like Tim Blake Nelson, I was a classic student in college.
Yeah, Dom has a lot of the classics and like the references like that, but I noticed a lot of the film stuff. So whichever one you want to hear first, yeah.
Since we're kind of talking about folklore, myth, Odyssey, we'll do Dom, and then we'll kind of get into some of the stuff.
Yeah,
the film.
All right, where do I start?
Why don't you start with the opening card title?
Literally, the opening title card is the opening. I think oh man, Professor Markovich would be, if you're watching. I'm sorry, but he would know what like translation of the Odyssey that is. Yeah, the opening title card being "Sing in me, Muse, and tell through me the story of that man skilled in all ways of contending. Wanderer, harried for years on end." I think that's the one. It's all similar to that, this like ancient Greek always getting like retranslated. Sometimes it rhymes, sometimes it's like modern English, whatever. But yeah, literally it starts with the same invocation, like the Homeric invocation to the muse. That being said, we talk about like folklore versus literature, and even though like we have the Odyssey written down, when it was probably told the first time at a festival, or at like kind of like the court of a king, or like in front of an important person. But it would have been like an oral performance. There are all these like repeated phrases in the Odyssey, you know, to as like mental shortcuts so you remember where you are. So it's definitely like written as an oral poem, and this one starts with that same opening formula that the Odyssey does, which real nice touch, Coen Brothers. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, you already said it earlier, but like, yeah, he goes by Everett. His first name's Ulysses.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're giving away at that point.
Yeah.
He even calls himself at one point. He says, "I'm the old tactician," which is, I believe, a Homeric,
Yeah.
in certain translations, a Homeric title that he gives to Odysseus. Odysseus is the old tactician. I mean, he's the Trojan horse guy in the Iliad. You know,
Yeah.
so he's always he much like Everett. He's trying to outthink people.
Yeah.
You mentioned the sirens a second ago, though.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to talk about the sirens, but I think it's real interesting that the sirens in this movie, like the three women who get them drunk, they're kind of the fusion of the sirens and another character from the Odyssey, Circe, who turns like lustful men into pigs. And this, you know. There is a pig earlier in the movie,
the kid ends up taking it back home. They steal it.
Delmar saves the pig from the burning barn. Yeah, so there is a pig in the movie, but they couldn't resist the loved him up and turn him into a horny toad. I mean, it's a classic.
Yeah, right.
The sirens, who are also Circe, turn lustful men into frogs in this.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is real cool. Trying to lightning round some other Odyssey references. We mentioned the sheriff. Poseidon hates Odysseus in the Odyssey, and you know, the sheriff. There's like a ticking clock for like the flood, and there's like a whole like the sheriff is the villain, but also like flooding the valley is the other thing he's trying to beat. So like the sheriff and flooding are together in a very like Poseidon way. Zeus, you know, a lot of people think Zeus is like the thunder god, but in like a lot of the old myths, like Zeus is the god of he's like the god of politicians. He's like the god of being in charge and ruling. And you know, I see that a lot in Pappy, like the politician who saves Everett by like giving him his favor and like bringing him into his court, so to speak. We get Babyface kills cattle, book 12 of the Odyssey right there, when they slay Helios' cattle and get in trouble. His wife is named Penelope, a little different, whereas Penelope in the Odyssey waits 20 years to be with Odysseus. It's like, I don't know, maybe not 9 months max, and she's about to move on. So I like Penelope in the book better. But also something I really love when they go to the movie theater and they see Pete, who they think is dead, and he gives them a message.
Yes.
Same way Odysseus goes into the underworld and sees his father and gets like foreshadowing that's very important for him for his journey. And of course, last two more I want to bring up: Big Dan Teague, who, you know, John Goodman, everyone loves him in this movie.
Yes.
Big Dan to court, great performance. I mean, he has one eye and he gets beaten by it's a burning cross instead of a burning spear. But yeah, you have a Cyclops who's out tricked by Odysseus with a burning piece of wood. The only big thing I think from the Odyssey, and I thought of this when you were talking about it, Daisy, the big famous thing from the Odyssey they don't do in this is that, because you said like the blind oracle at the beginning of the Odyssey, that something clicked in my head where Tiresias, the oracle of the Odyssey, is like one of chronologically the earliest things, but the Odyssey starts in like year 8 and then flashes back. It's like one of the famous examples of like the trope they call in medias res, like starting in the middle of things and then flashing back. It's like one of the early flashbacks in like the like the oral you know, traditional like narrative canon. This one does not start in medias res, and other than that, it does everything the Odyssey does. The people getting baptized show up at the same time the Lotus Eaters do, and it's all of these the Lotus Eaters just like get zonked out on drugs, just get zooted and stand there, and Odysseus to pull his men out of there because they just want to stay mellow and not go back home. And it's kind of Delmar's thing. He gets saved by the Alison Krauss baptism gang and doesn't want to leave the river. Yeah. All right, I ran through a whole bunch of Odyssey things.
There's so many.
No, that's why, you know, it's important to to go back and rewatch these things, I watched this originally back around the time, for sure in 2000, and then again probably in college, and I've probably seen it since, but never to the level where I was like reading into it, being like, oh, there's all these parallels to Homer, and the ones that, even knowing that, you caught a lot that I had missed. So awesome job there. I want to talk about. I'll say this a lot in the show. Well, I'll say I want to talk about this later, and I never do. So I'm just going to do it now. I'm going to do it now. You mentioned the slaying of the cattle. I just thought one thing that stood with me was, and I know a lot of this was done through CGI, but not a great movie for, if you're, an animal sympathizer.
Oh,
we have,
cow fan. Yeah.
The cows getting hurt, the John Goodman smushing the toad.
Yeah. The toe smushing is I distinctly remember that from the first time I watched
Pig
it.
gets saved.
Yeah, pig's okay. Yeah.
But even with that, there's like the traumatic moment where the pig's screaming while they're driving through the burning cart, where I kind of felt for the little guy, or little gal, whoever the pig may be. But yeah, no. So it was just one of the only things that on my rewatch I was like, I don't know, did this age well? Daisy, let's get into some of the things cinematically they did.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. So one thing that I really noticed, and it's just starting to watch the film again, is they have like a sepia tone that's over the entire film. And this might have been what you were alluding to earlier when we were talking a little bit about some of the firsts of film. I don't think that they were truly the first to put a sepia layer over it, or I might be misunderstanding that, but I know that they were one of the few like huge films to layer the film with the sepia tone. And I think this is such an interesting like evocation of what it means to have a traditional or like a historical film, particularly something in the context of old time music. People like to think that old time music or this era, this history is in the past and it stays in the past, and the way that we mark that in film is through things like sepia tone, or trying to like mimic what older film styles and techniques look like to make people feel like they've been transported or like they are in the past, even though a lot of this film came out in 2000, it was made in the 90s. So even though it's like happening with us, and not only the period that the film is set in is really interesting, but even to push it further, like having it be a connection to the Odyssey, which is a far more ancient text, is kind of interesting to put the sepia over. It's like, why is sepia depression era? Like, of all the things. And so that is something fascinating. Yes. Yeah.
They were the first people to do it digitally, I think.
To do it digitally. Okay. That's what I was wondering. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it's over the entire film. So I think that, and especially in the opening scene, to me, it's jarring. They clearly like did the lighting to make it brighter, or, to make the actors shine and things like this at other points in the film. But definitely in the opening scene, I was like, everything is just a little bit faded.
And watching that, it's funny. My wife, when we were watching the movie, was like, she thought that they had filmed everything in front of a green screen, just because the way it looked.
Interesting.
Because she was just like, what's going on here? And I was like, they actually did something kind of, digital, where it was a little cutting edge. And also that opening scene, just another thing that I thought was super interesting in doing the research. That's an actual Chain Gang recording.
Yeah, that's an Alan Lomax recording.
Yeah.
That's a recording made by a folklorist.
We need to talk about Alan Lomax. I was going to say, when are we going to talk about Alan Lomax?
What are we talking about Alan Lomax?
Let's do it now. Let's do it now, since we're jumping into it. Who is Alan Lomax?
Alan Lomax is a field worker. He's a folklorist who worked for the Library of Congress, for the WPA, right?
Yes.
Like one of like the New Deal organizations, and he got sent out to record traditional American music, and he loaded like giant reel-to-reel machines in the back of his car, carried it around the South, and went to kind of African American communities in the rural South, and just like was one of the first people to like put the blues down, as like to record the blues, and that was like done by a folklorist working like for like a New Deal agency back in the 30s and 40s.
That era. era is really key for folklore becoming sort of like to the American consciousness like a national importance.
Yeah.
So Alan Lomax is sort of a symbol or like almost a legendary hero, if you want to put him in that category. But he's like a person who gets talked about a lot in not just in folklore but like across fields because of this endeavor to try to record and collect what it means to have American folklore at like a government level, at a federal level.
And I know of Mr. Lomax because of some of my history classes.
Yeah.
And again, this is, I don't know, this is where history, folklore, it all kind of intersects. But, one of the big eye-opening moments for me in college was one of my first classes was the blues. And it was kind of one of those classes that's meant to teach you just how to like get acclimated from the transition from high school to college.
Sure.
And I had the luck. I was luckily put into this class. He ended up being my college advisor within the history department. Freddie Morton, shout out to Freddie Morton if you're listening. He was the head of the Loras College history department. A hell of a guy. And what I learned was just, and this is again common knowledge to a lot of people, but it was just that a lot of rock and roll music was essentially stolen. I mean, it's just stolen blues. It's stolen. African American music is just simply, I guess it's how to simply put it. So that was an eye-opening moment for me. And Mr. Lomax was someone that without his field work that you're talking about, we wouldn't be able to so clearly kind of point to, well, here we have these recordings of these songs being sung, years before you have people like Elvis Presley or name your, kind of your, the white face of rock and roll who kind of came on later, Billy Holiday, or what am I saying?
Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly is what I was somewhere between Billie Holiday and Billie Holiday. Sorry. So that was one of the things that was kind of young 18-year-old me was just kind of, I was starting to get into music at that time, like really get into music, and I was just like, wow, eye opening. Shout out to Mr. Lomax, Alan Lomax.
A big thing when he made all of these recordings, and in America, listening to like the blues and all of these like folk songs from African American people, there was like an intellectual curiosity, like an academic thing behind it, but it like wouldn't get played on the radio, like you said. It would get played on like
and like it's
American radio, but
it's directly referenced
like
in the film.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Directly.
Yeah, reference in the film like that. Yeah, you need like a white person to put on a mass like consumer culture face for it. And a big reason why like the British invasion bands were like so blues oriented is that like in England it showed up as like world music, and there wasn't like the Jim Crow connotation. It was like, oh, listen to this like traditional music from across the ocean, and like the Stones and the Kinks and everything were like, oh, cool, it's folk music divorced of this like context of like systemic racism. So like all those like 60s English bands grew up listening to American folk music.
Really cool.
Can I take a peek behind the curtain real quick? The other movie I proposed was Cadillac Records, which has an actor playing Alan Lomax. So my thing was Lomax movies.
There you go. That would have tied it in really nicely. Daisy, continue. Sorry, we cut you off. We got on Alan Lomax.
Alan Lomax totally important to talk about in the context of music in this film. I mean, we could also mention that this film soundtrack actually won a Grammy.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
Thinking about old time music, and the sort of like resurgence of an interest in old time music, that came after the release of this film and the album, etc. I think that's been really interesting too. And it plays to me an interesting spot in folklore as well, because I think that people think folk music, they think old time music, or they think that it's in the past and it's gone and people don't really play that anymore. But it's a very like a live living tradition, right? That's another like key phrase that folklorists talk about and use a lot. Traditions that are living because they don't really go away, right? They're always like building upon themselves and shifting and changing and stuff like that.
And folklore is a huge umbrella. Folk music is a huge umbrella too.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, there is, if if you study it academically, a lot of folklorists end up in ethnomusicology, which is just like folklore but music.
Shout out to
You know,
our sister
or whatever.
field,
Yeah, whatever.
ethnomusicology.
Yeah, yes.
And presumably our sister our sister Twitch stream,
Yes.
ethnomusicology wise. Don't know if that's a thing yet, but someone should start it.
I know, yeah, like, yes. Oh my gosh, one of our budding shows that we'll just have people on and play music. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's so much there, and I even to bring it back to like the sepia tone, like what about these tones or the ways that you use a camera or edit film can evoke something like that that's completely subconscious, right? Like I don't think that people are watching that consciously and going, this looks kind of sepia. I mean, maybe some people are, but you don't, it doesn't call attention to itself, I think, except for maybe the first scene. But
well, and you kind of made notes about the way they shoot dialogue, and it's kind of one of those
I was
things.
gonna say, yeah. So this is another thing that, like, when you know the language of film, you notice a lot more about film and how stuff is made. So one of the reasons that I really like the Coen brothers is because they do something different than a lot of other filmmakers do, especially at the era when they were producing some of these big films, is the way that they actually shoot what's called a shot reverse shot. Shot reverse shot is totally standard in every movie that has dialogue. It basically is just, you look at one person, camera flips to the other side, you see the other person, and they're having a conversation with each other. And usually this is filmed with the camera, either two cameras to the side like this of the two people who are talking, or they like switch sides and they film it independently or something like that. But you kind of over the shoulder, or it gives a perspective of like you're peeking into the conversation, right? As the viewer, you are a voyeur into what's happening. The Coen brothers, the way that they film shot reverse shot is they actually put the camera in the middle of the people. So the two actors, instead of it being like angled at them, it's direct in their face, like between the two people, which is cool because it puts you in the center of the dialogue, right? So the actor is actually having a conversation with you, the viewer, while they're having a conversation with somebody else. And it's also really cool because thinking like my film brain knows that they had to turn that camera. So the dialogue was not natural when the actors were filming it. So they're not just having a back and forth like stage performance or like, you know, just going riffing off each other. They're actually like basically alone with some random person on the side reading the other line, and they have to immerse themselves as though they were experiencing that conversation naturally back and forth because of the way that the camera is positioned. So that always makes me feel like damn, they're really good actors.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's worth noting because those little things, you know, like it was one of those things. I saw that note in there and I had to go back and rewatch a few of the scenes.
Yes.
Because I'd watched it. Yeah, I had watched it 2 or 3 times when I saw the note and I didn't know, you know, so I was like, okay, let's go back and watch some of these. And it's just, it really does add to your appreciation of the actor's work.
For sure.
Yeah, I think we'll get to it a little bit later because I do, you know, I know he's under one of Dom's favorites, his strongest performances. He originally was not my strongest, but then I was like, okay, you know what? After seeing your note and then going back and watching it, a much greater appreciation for this actor's work in this film. So just say that.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that's great too, so there's like the actors like having to kind of navigate that, the filmmakers trying to navigate that, but then what it does to the audience is also really interesting because, as I mentioned, not only are you like in the center of the conversation that's happening, but it also makes it creates like a feel of intimacy in the Coen brothers films that is both like intense and ironic. It's funny. And it's like really hard for me to put to words like how funny Coen brothers films are when there's so much about tragedy or about like bad things happening to characters. And because you're looking right at them when it happens, you get to see like the little things about the actors' movements or about the scene that you wouldn't if you were sort of like looking to the side or felt like out of space. So it's like like the intimacy through irony of being right in the camera with the person. It's as though you were having this conversation with your friend or something. And so I think that that's really cool. And that exists like across Coen Brother films. So not just this one, but
oh my God, yeah. I was gonna say, I think their best example. I mean, to me, my when I hear you say that, the film of theirs that comes to mind is The Big Lebowski.
Yes, yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. It's great. Yeah.
See, and I was thinking No Country for Old Men when you said that.
Yeah. Okay. So
I find that one least or not so funny.
It's not funny, but I'm just thinking like the coin flip scene. You're like right between the two of them in what should be like a terrifying situation, but it's more awkward because it's like you're staring at their faces. Yeah.
Yes. Or I'm thinking when when the dude is at the police station and he's sitting in the chair and he gets the mug thrown at his face. Instead of watching that as the sheriff throwing the mug, you see the sheriff throw and then cut the impact, right? And like that's a good example. And in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, I think another good example of this is when they introduce Pappy, right? Then they zoom up on his face, and instead and he's kind of like towering over the table with the frog and Delmar and Everett, right?
And Big Dan.
Big Dan. Big Dan. Excuse me. When Big Dan, when the camera's like zoomed up on Big Dan's face, and he like gets up, walks over, and instead of it being like over Big Dan's shoulder and like looking down at the table because he's standing, it's like they actually cut from looking up at Big Dan to at the table, and it creates like a really interesting kind of comedic space that's also really intense. Like, and I feel being sold to. I am sold by Big Dan because of the way that I am looking at him in that moment. John Goodman's a great actor.
No, and, another Coen Brothers film with John Goodman that I think of as we're talking about this is Raising Arizona, where they do a good job of, as you're talking about, creating this humorous intimacy in scenes that should not necessarily be humorous.
Yeah, right, and it like humanizes the characters in a really special way, I think.
100%. 100%. We're going to jump into some of the, we've talked a lot about the Odyssey, so we're not going to talk so much about that in literary references. I'm just going to touch on these. I had read a quote by Joel Coen where he talks about how, they thought they were doing the Odyssey, but then, as they kind of like looked at it more and more, he's like, it's just three schmucks who are trying to get home. This is the Wizard of Oz. So with that thought in mind, I kind of like took that a step further, and I thought it kind of fit pretty well where you have George Clooney probably being the Tin Man looking for a heart, right? Delmar is the Scarecrow looking for a brain to a certain degree. John Turturro, is Pete looking for courage, being the cowardly lion.
He totally is. Yeah. Now that you say that, I'm like, oh crap. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Sheriff. Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Again, wouldn't have caught that had I not done a little bit of a digging, and that's more so coming from Joel Coen. There were a couple books that I saw that were potential influences. There's one called Old Man. This is about a convict swept away by the Mississippi River. He tries to get home to his sweetheart, whose name is Waldrip, or her last name is Waldrip. So, and I believe oh, nope, that's the next book. There was another book called A Dozen Tough Jobs, which is about a character named Hercules who labors in a familiar southern setting, Mississippi. The author of that book is Howard Waldrip. And in that book, Waldrip is, well, I shouldn't say in that book, but in this movie, Waldrip is the name of Penny Suitor, Vernon Waldrip. So yeah, just knock those out real fast. Historical references, we've kind of already touched on Tommy Johnson, babyface George Nelson, who this is just a little quick tie to, our neck of the woods. I grew up in Woodstock, Illinois, and not far from Woodstock is Barrington, Illinois. That's where babyface George Nelson was killed in a shootout.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we know quite a bit about him. He teamed up with John Dillinger, another guy who was killed here in Chicago, not far from one of my favorite music venues, Lincoln Hall. He's mentioned. You guys talked about Pappy. There was and I forgot. Did we talk about how he's potentially a parallel for Menelaus as well?
Oh yeah, that's his first name. Menelaus, more of a Iliad guy, but
exactly.
Yeah, Menelaus passed the biscuits, Pappy O'Daniel.
That's right. That's right. Also based on a historical character who was the governor and senator in Texas, W. Lee O'Daniel, the singing governor, right?
Yeah, who sold biscuits on a radio show, right?
That's right. Yep. Sold biscuits, had folk music. Folk music was a big part of his, his whole shtick. You guys caught a couple. I saw I saw Dom. I think at least you have some notes in here. Do you want to touch on them?
Yeah. Speaking of using the radio and folk music for a for like an agenda, a little thing I didn't catch until this watch is the car part. When the car breaks down, the car they steal from Washington, the car breaks down, and the old man behind the counter says that he doesn't have the part in stock, so he has to ship it from Bristol, and it's 2 weeks away. And I went like, where is Bristol? Is there a Bristol, Mississippi? And then I thought like, oh, it just has to be an Easter egg. They have to be talking about Bristol, Tennessee, the birthplace of country music, where the Carter family, like a folk music family band from the mountains, came into town and recorded some of their like traditional tunes on wax for the first time, and that became like a huge boom in like recorded country music. That's kind of like where the history of country music starts, with the Carter family recording songs. And basically like there was a whole boom after that of like, all right, find kind of rural people from like the mountains who have like that like strong tradition of like Scots-Irish ballads and banjo music and everything that would like get absorbed into country music, and get them on vinyl, and don't cut them into any of the rights, but get them on vinyl as soon as possible. Famously, the Carter family were similar to W. Leo Daniel. The Carter family for a while had an internship down in Del Rio, Texas, or internship. They're like artists in residence in Del Rio, Texas, to Dr. Brinkley, who was the famous goat gland doctor who could cure impotence by sewing goat testicles into you. His big thing was like people were tuning into his radio program to hear the Carter family play live, and then also like people were falling for this like ED treatment scam through the power of recorded folk music. Another like folk radio station out in Texas. Yeah.
And there's another Carter reference that I didn't catch originally until, again, saw your notes. So then I was like looking for Carter stuff, digging a little further. The scene where Everett gets back to his, he sees his daughters singing at the political rally. They're singing a Carter, that's a Carter family song.
Yes.
And the daughters, I think, are very intentionally supposed to mimic the Carter daughters.
June Carter, Carter Cass later in life.
That's who famously, for those who maybe not, and I again, totally admitting my ignorance. Country music, I'm a huge music fan. Country music, bluegrass, folk music, probably one of the areas I was, deficient in knowledge in. So this, I was glad, again, for this movie, for that reason, to help me kind of go back. Of course, I know of Johnny Cash, and so I know a little bit, but I don't know much beyond that. So this helped me get a little bit more acclimated with that. And you know what? I'm going to keep digging into to a lot of this music.
This is a good movie that I think got a lot of people excited about what old time music is.
Yeah. And old time music is a genre as much as it's a community, because it's like people playing in circles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just like anecdotally, just something that I can say to back that up, the job I had before COVID, my manager, her husband was in a bluegrass band, and she talked about how this movie kind of helped her husband's bluegrass band just become a lot more popular, where they were going for playing, these tiny shows to playing, making a decent amount of money for themselves. So yeah, this 1,000% was like a real life thing that impacted, artists and musicians in a real way. Dom, you had talked about the KKK, the square dancing scene.
I was also, I saw that Dom had notes about it, and I was like, I'm going to mention it if Dom doesn't, because this is like very interesting.
Another thing that blew my mind.
Yeah.
This blew my mind. So talk about it. And there's more information on this scene that I was really interested in as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a film behind the
scenes thing going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically, Daisy, maybe you can say more about it, but basically the reason why square dance was such a part of like American public school music curriculum was because that was like a lobbying initiative bankrolled by the KKK. Can you say more about that, Daisy?
I mean, I don't know if I can say much more about it, but yeah, like it was taught to people in school and is still taught in school, but it's like one of those things that's lost to time, or like the history is, I shouldn't say lost to time. It's specifically hidden from people, but
it's one of those things we do and we don't know why we did it, and we look up why we started doing it. It was
and we're like,
people wanted to like protect white music, which you can see from this, like kind of something to say from the movie that concept's even like,
I wish,
bullshit. Yeah.
I think that conversation's really interesting and alluded to in the film. I wish it was like further developed, because there's so much potential, I think, for that to be more explicit, like especially with the recording studio, and and I think that it got lost, but.
For example, one of the first, the movie starts off with Big Rock Candy Mountain, and they jump on the train, and there is a harmonica blowing, like pretending to be a train whistle. And I think that's a reference to DeFord Bailey, who was one of the first like regulars at the Grand Ole Opry, who was African-American and used to do impressions of trains with his harmonica. Then again, it's just kind of like, if you're a deep country music fan, you know about it, but I wish I would have brought it up because it's part of, there was a lot of fertile ground about how like the history of country music and folk music is in America is very integrated, but got claimed later as like a sort of like reactionary movement that it's for white people. And like you
whitewashed.
Said, it could have, it got whitewashed. It's like they almost talked about it, but they allude to it, but they didn't really talk about it.
No, I was again, it was one of those things I didn't remember being even. I was happy that it was even part of the film, right? Because I didn't remember that, from it wasn't one of my takeaways from my original watch. And going back, I was kind of almost thinking like it was one of those things I wanted to like downgrade it on, like, because they didn't touch on it. It's like, oh well, no, they touched on it. Okay, excellent, good for them. That KKK scene also, so that was filmed using like a military regalia group that and a lot of the actors and dancers were actually African American, and so the Joel Coen, again, had this interview. I'll try to include all these interviews in the description. I'll have to go back in and drop them in later. But he talked about how like surreal that was, like just filming that. And also in kind of going back and trying to research and trying to figure out more of the parallels between Wizard of Oz and this movie and Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I think this is probably one of the scenes that people kind of point to the most, because it's so reminiscent of the Flying Monkeys in the original Wizard of Oz, and kind of their marching, and even the hey-oh, like the sound that it's in. And in this case, one of the things I found problematic in making the parallels between this movie and Wizard of Oz is we have, as we've already kind of established, really good parallels for the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow, but we don't have necessarily a Dorothy. But in this scene, Tommy Johnson is our stand-in for Dorothy, right? Yeah. Because you have the monkey, like the Ku Klux Klan has them on each arm, and the scene where they fly away with Dorothy, that's kind of how it happens, one on each arm. It's almost like if you did a shot-for-shot parallel, it would work really, really well with these two scenes. So just another really cool kind of thing that I thought that they did with this.
I wish Tommy didn't disappear halfway through the movie. I wish he could just be the Dorothy.
Yeah, right. He does kind of he appears and he reappears. But yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. just how that whole scene in general, and then especially I didn't make the connection that Dom really drove home with the Cyclops getting felled by the burning spear, but I think
Yes. Mhm.
when you kind of take that into consideration along with the Wizard of Oz, which again Joel Coen himself had said, in a quote, like, we were doing the Odyssey and then we realized, we're actually doing the Wizard of Oz. So the parallels I don't think are unintentional. I think they're very much there. And here's Dancing Sean saying, I can't believe I never made the Wizard of Oz connection.
Right.
Dancing Sean, very, very close friend of the program.
Very beautiful beard.
Oh God.
Yes.
And
dance moves, as the name would suggest.
Yeah. And, I was on History of Westeros little more than a week ago. The following guest who followed me was Sean. So History of Westeros, another show that gets really, really good guests. We've talked about the TMC. We've talked about Folkwise Live. History of Westeros, really good guests.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of our favorite scenes. Daisy.
So many things.
Yeah. Talk about some of yours.
Yeah. Well, so some of mine are like different pieces of some that we all, I think, collectively really enjoy.
Yeah.
But so maybe Tommy, you want to mention the sirens? We all like the siren scene. I like right after the siren scene personally, when they are discovering like that Pete got turned into a toad.
Yes.
Because I just love Delmar going, he's a toad, like the screaming, and that like the sheer horror on his face of like genuine disbelief, I think is something that I really appreciate.
And that's where the Iris Inn is, right? At the end of that scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Baller move.
Yes. And gosh, it's so funny. And then just like the continuation of that kind of like the way that we can. It's interesting to me, and a lot of work I do is like thinking about what it means to be a person in connection to more than human beings. So being able to like in a film really represent like the projection or like the granting of personhood to a frog in such a way that was like completely relational, completely context dependent. Like, and you feel horrible later when Big Dan, it just fucking destroys it.
That's the most Daisy note you could have given this movie.
And
personhood of a frog.
I know. Well, and that the frog symbolically is the heartbeat, right? Is like also it's and
you guys, this is why I love Daisy.
Same.
This is why I love Daisy.
Shucks, guys. So I love that scene because I think that it really in the audience you feel the drama of the frog as a person, and part of that's because the frog is in a reverse shot with Delmar, and like it's really this like Coen Brothers way that is both like tragedy and intimacy and humor at the same time, and it's just a frog. And so I think that that's really like a special scene that you just don't see that a lot in movies. I also really like the underwater scene because clearly, or the flood scene, right? So the flood happens, and all of the Dapper Dan's cans, right, are like going everywhere in such a beautiful pattern, and then all of a sudden the bloodhound is like going through, like, and it's interesting. I didn't look up how they filmed it specifically, but obviously a lot of it is CGI, but also a lot of it is like timing, and I want to see the big tank that I'm sure existed where they were like bubbling up and churning water and then releasing cans at the proper moment. And then I also want to see the contraption that they used right after the like underwater shot when Everett pops up and all the cans like slowly pop up around him, because there's no way that like one, the cans were all empty and they would do that, and two, that it would be so timed as Everett to pop up and then the cans are bubbling up. I just think that that's a very well shot sequence that is fun to watch, and really creative, and a way to do a flood or an underwater scene that sort of is like a good transition, but and captures the intensity, but again the like that intimacy that's humorous, that and humanist that the Coen brothers get to create in film is just like special. So I think that's a good scene that it's underrated.
Yeah, no, and again, it was one of those things. You guys are so much smarter than me because I read your notes and then I kind of went back and rewatched those scenes. That flood scene again, I was something that I kind of like, maybe because I know it's the end of the movie and I'm, it's one of those, you watch something differently when you know you're going to talk about it on a podcast. And at that point, I'm like, I have my notes and it's more of a formality than anything. But after reading it, I was like, wow, that really is, a phenomenally done scene. And what you talk about, just like how it's made, 1,000%. Like those are the things that once you pose that question, it's hard to stop thinking about it. And it's hard to stop respecting or being impressed with the scene.
Yeah, and I feel that way a lot about like Coen Brothers films, but other just like any huge film, there's so much that goes like you can't even imagine how many people it takes to put together a single film. So it's all so special.
Also, can I add something about the flood scene?
Yeah.
Shouts out to National Heritage Fellows, the Fairfield Four, like they're NEA fellows, the Gravediggers, they're National Endowment of the Arts,
actual gospel singers.
Actual gospel singers who won like the highest award for traditional arts back in like the 80s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I and that's one of the, we talked about it a little bit in True Romance, which is when you watch a Quentin Tarantino film, if you're looking or watching the right way, that film again, I'm talking about True Romance specifically, but and he didn't direct that, he just wrote it, but I still felt like there's an aspect to that if you want to go behind the details, right, or if you want to dig in, it could be like a film school education, right? Like there's films that are playing in the background, and if you look into those films, you like, hey, what's that film? Why is that important? Why is that? He's putting it in there for a reason. He's putting these references, Sonny Chiba, all these things, right? And in this case, I feel like, thinking back, I don't know that every Coen Brothers film does this, but this one does a really good job of it. And it wasn't something I was aware of it, but it was just, from a folklore perspective and from what they're doing and trying to give homages to these things that were happening in the real historical time, anywhere from using this real chain gang footage or song to featuring these actual gospel singers, right? It's like, it's a fun game, right? If you unravel the jewelry, I kind of liken it to Tangled Jewelry, right? It's like, a lot of times you look at it and you're like, I don't really want to fuck with it, but it can be really satisfying if you really like go through and you follow each piece through and you figure out where it goes. And that's kind of what this is like. It's like, if you're willing to go through the work and follow each piece and figure out, dig into it, it's so much more rewarding. I don't know. Yeah. And it just, those little facts to me just make a movie go from being a little above average to being a great movie. I don't know.
And here's kind of one of the problems I have with the movie is when you like follow down the rabbit hole like deep enough, you're like, there's so much more they could have done. Like I think Ralph Stanley didn't get credited at first, and that's why or who sings "Oh Death." Like I think they like they didn't properly credit him the first time around and had to like correct it. And like, if you were like love like the siren scene is so fun, but if like that was Emmylou Harris, Alison Crouch, and Gillian Welch playing themselves, that would be so much better, But they had people lip sync these like amazing folk singers. Yeah.
Well, that's one of my gripes with George Clooney a little bit later on, but but we'll get to it. Hey, Daisy, what did you have?
I don't know. You said it really well. I guess something that like the Coen brothers do, and maybe this is like my folklore brain thinking, but part of the reason it's such a good movie to talk about folklore with, or maybe even a number of their films is because they're so good at capturing like the human experience in a really micro way, like in the really small ways about what it means to interpret an interaction with somebody that is filled with so much like context about the person or about like the situation that is required to I don't know. It's like all of these little interactions, all the dialogue that happens between the characters, you can see on their face that their response comes from their entire list of life experience and all of the things that have influenced who they are up into that moment. And like you can almost predict that by the seeing it on film or the way that the story is written or whatever that the Coen brothers do that just make people or make the actors feel just so relatable and utterly human. And I think that that's what folklore does, is like it's a reminder all the time that we are the people who we are is shaped by all of these like little interactions that we share with our communities at any given time, and that all of the things that we think of or all the references that we make, like, you know, thinking about our notes being so different, like that's because we have such like different life experiences that only we as the people who we are could think of and make those connections with. And that's what's really cool and special about being a person. And the Coen brothers do that through the way that they film and through their guidance for the actors and through their choice in actors and all of the little references that they put in. So I just think that that's really cool.
And I don't know where this ties in, but something in my gut says it ties in right here after what you just said. But there was something that I read about John Turturro, and it's kind of when he was talking to Tim Blake Nelson and he's explaining to him, you know, how a Coen Brothers shoot works. And I don't know if you guys saw this quote, but he's like, here's the thing. You get the script and it's fucking awesome. And then you shoot the movie and it's 3 times better than the script.
Aww.
He's like,
That's
and this
cool.
script is a fucking classic, Tim. And so it's kind of like this thing where he's like, hey man, like these guys know how to do what they're doing. And the script is already awesome. So it's going to be great. You know, you would mention the siren scene, and I do have it included in mine, but I think maybe you were a little bit better in describing it because yes, of course, I'm a heterosexual man who was very turned on by the siren scene in and of itself, right? Like that's great. But when I put the siren scene in there, I guess probably what I was actually describing is what you're describing is the scene after the sirens. It's with Delmar, with the toad or the frog.
Kind of like disoriented and figuring out what the heck just happened. And I love right before it too, when Pete's in the car and he's like just starts screaming.
Yes.
And you're like, what is going on? Like, because it feels so out of sync with the film. Like, there are a couple moments in the film because of the way the story is that just feel like, why is this happening? Like, there's no, you know, that it fits within the context of the Odyssey or whatever this like larger narrative is, but it does feel like, why'd they just stop and do that? But you don't question it because it's just part of the narrative
As I remember correctly, Pete isn't even talking. He's quietly playing banjo, or Delmer isn't talking. He's playing banjo quietly, and Pete goes, "Shut up, Delmer!"
Yeah.
1000%.
Screaming. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. No. There's something about you know, I forgot to touch on it, or actually, I didn't forget to touch on it. I forgot to include it in the notes. We had a section that we've been trying to include. It's called Cosmic Giggles, where we kind of talk about similarities that past episodes have had with the current one. Folk music, 100%. We've done Almost Famous, which large part deals with music, rock and roll, maybe not folk music.
Well, it's touring musicians, though.
Yeah,
touring
musicians. The Graduate, Simon and Garfunkel, which is the first album shown on Almost Famous, and clearly folk music kind of falls into this category. There are a few others, I'm sure, that are escaping me at the time, but those. I do want to just touch on, but what made me think of it is this idea of the genuine idiot, right? Like Delmar, you know, and we did Zoolander not long ago. We've done MacGruber, right? These genuine idiots, again, maybe a common thread throughout some of our episodes.
Another great trope.
Yes. Yeah.
That exists like eternally. Yeah. It's like one of those character archetypes. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, Dom, do you want to touch on some of your favorite scenes?
Okay. So
I almost texted you yesterday. Do not seek the treasure.
It's funny. It's funny. We've been doing promo out of Folkwise for our appearance, and we got retweeted by the American Folklore Society, like the main governing body of folklore. But their quote tweet was just, "We thought you was a toad." little scene in the movie theater, that's probably my favorite scene.
Yeah.
Just when they're like whisper shouting at each other.
Yeah. It's really
Which
good.
I love it. And, you know, seeing Pete. I remember the first time I saw this movie when Pete comes back, I was so
And he's-
excited. You know,
Yeah, and he's like, what? Like,
I love that scene.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. But okay,
Do you-
me and
I-
like my.
I have
go.
a question. Do you think that they actually see Pete when they're in the line, or like when they drive through the chain
1,000,000%.
line? You think he's actually there?
Yes,
think
I
he's
was
there.
I was wondering. At
Does
first
Pete have a brother? Yeah.
at first I wondered if this was like just an illusion, but yeah. Okay.
So I love that scene. The other scene I love, me and like my nerdy friends in undergrad, we would all go, or undergrad, no, high school, flashing back to like 2007. We'd all go over to my friend Kelsey Gray's house and like go hang out in her basement. That was like the house we all hung out in. And we would like, Oh Brother Where Art Thou was like our movie we would put on, like our like Friday night like hangout movie, and just like we'd talk over it, but every now and then there would be like a line we would all like stop break the conversation midway through to start quoting. And I have so many good memories of everyone knowing the Woolworth scene by heart. And just all the dialogue in the Woolworth scene, you know, just George Clooney and Holly Hunter going back and forth, like
So good.
plenty of respectable people been hit by trains, all that. And then
Yeah.
when Vernon T. Waltrip shows up and like you can't swear at my fiance, you can't marry my wife, damn it.
Yeah.
But it really comes to blows when he smells him, goes, you can use my hair treatment. Oh, your hair treatment. And then boxes the shit out of him. That scene is just, I think, classic. It's that scene and the priest, the rabbi, and the patriarchy and Hail Caesar are like my two favorite like Coen Brothers dialogue scenes.
Yeah.
So just really quickly going back to your first favorite, the Do Not Seek the Treasure. And before we do this, let's do a quick little shout out to everyone in the chat.
Hi, friends.
Yeah, Death Loris is here. We have Scott Wortman, Dancing Sean, maybe others who are just lurking. It's not the Folkwise live chat. You know, you guys. It's one thing that I've admitted I'm quite jealous of. I'm quite jealous.
Not Twitch. It's not Twitch.
It's not Twitch. Maybe that's a fact.
I
But
think
you know what?
Twitch influences that a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I just think it's you guys. I think you guys have.
Shucks.
Part of the reason is we wanted to be on Twitch is because like the way Twitch chat works, like folklore happens in the Twitch chat, and everyone
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about ladders a little bit later. But to go back to one of your favorite scenes, Dom, Do Not Seek the Treasure. Just a second ago, I talked about how if you watch a Tarantino film, a lot of times if you're paying very close attention, the movies in the background will tell you a lot about.
Tell me about it.
So I love when movies feature watching movies.
Yes,
I love it. It's
so
like
one
always
movie
means something
in the underworld. What movie is it?
It's never random, right? It's always put in there for a reason. So the film playing in the theater is called Mert and Marge. And the reason why I was really interested in finding out what this film was is because I had just had that conversation with Daryl Mansell. Shout out to Paprika. And we talked about how this, like, you know, it's important. Anytime you see a film within a film, that's your cue to stop and just say, what is this? And I'm so glad I did, because one of my notes was Three Stooges. ? Because there is a very big for me. Like, I watched this on my first rewatch, and one of my big takeaways was like, it feels very Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Mert and Marge is from 1933. It features Eddie Foy, Ted Healy, and the Three Stooges.
Wow. So interesting.
So for me, that's headcanon as saying that when the Coen brothers were doing this, the Three Stooges were a little bit in mind.
They were thinking about it
with Pete, Everett, and Delmar. So
on the DVD featurette that I had, that I watched on my DVD copy from 2000 of this that I own, they mentioned the Three Stooges.
Do they? Okay, good.
Yeah, they mentioned the Three Stooges.
I think it's such a
They said they
clear
were combining
inspiration.
Homer and the Three Stooges is what they said. Yeah.
I think it's really clear. Like when you watch it, it's like if you have any interaction with the Three Stooges, the influence is really clear. So I thought that was cool, and I was glad that you included that in your favorite scenes because it allowed me to squeeze that little nugget in. So for me, yeah, I had the siren scene kind of like going along with what Daisy said. I don't think I could say it any better. I just think that Delmar sincerity is great.
Yeah.
And the other thing for me was just Big Dan's introduction into the film, just
Yes.
his whole story arc. I just think John Goodman is just a powerhouse.
I love his dialogue with
Oh my God.
Everett. Because they immediately like they lock eyes and we're like same.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, we get each other. We're the same person.
Different. Yeah.
yeah. And there's something I love about it as well, which is John Goodman, as we've already mentioned, was in Raising Arizona. One of the little like I guess plot hiccups, or not hiccup, but plot points of Raising Arizona was John Goodman is tracked because of his hair product. Now, in this movie, you have George Clooney who's being tracked using his hair product. So I thought that was a really cool kind of callback to Raising Arizona as well. And just the dialogue in general. John Goodman is, as I said, Walter is my favorite from The Big Lebowski. I just feel like now he's at a point in his career where he just shows up and he can be in a movie for 5 minutes and just rev it up and take it over.
Righteous Gemstones is my favorite show.
Oh, Righteous, yes. And there is you could see him mining. Speaking of that, and maybe we'll get to this later. I know I say I'm bad at getting to these later, but no, I do feel like when John Goodman took that part in Righteous Gemstones, he was looking at Big Dan and taking some things.
They both are very shady preachers. Yeah.
Definitely using the Bible. The other thing, again, maybe this is just selfishly me. I'm a larger man. I sweat a lot. Seeing
God, you do be sweaty.
Yeah, seeing Big Dan out there sweating underneath the tree, eating his fricassee. Oh man, like Apex Mountain for big sweaty dudes. Also, just a shout out to fricassee as well. If you're a Coen Brothers fan, fricassee is also mentioned in Fargo. So,
I thought you just meant like shout out to.
Just
dish.
Fricassee, which is also it's a delicious dish in and of itself. But if you're a Coen Brothers fan and you listen and you like Fargo, you'll notice that it's not the first time fricassee has been mentioned in a Coen Brothers film.
I wonder which one of them likes it.
I'll let you guys decide, and maybe in the chat, let me know who you think who is the fricassee fan. We're gonna jump to.
Are we allowed to talk about scenes we didn't like?
Did you have a scene you didn't like?
Well, I think upon rewatch, I figured out what specifically bugs me about the KKK scene where they're in blackface.
Yeah.
What specifically bugs me is that the joke is supposed to be they improvised camouflage and everyone thinks it's blackface.
Yeah.
But it's applied way too evenly to be improvised camouflage.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not just like.
Makeup artist said, do blackface on George Clooney. And Daisy, this will be just like Folkwise Live. I don't want to make everything sound everything about Metal Gear Solid, but if you were to do facial camo splitter black lines to make sure a face didn't look symmetrical, that's perfectly good night camo. You don't have to evenly apply shoe polish until it's blackface, which just seems as like you're telling me one thing and you're showing me something else in a way that really upset me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I've already mentioned my my distaste in the animal treatment in this movie. That would be the only. If you were going to talk about scenes that I didn't like, probably fall into that. Daisy, anything you have?
I think that those are pretty big ones that I also kind of agree with. I don't know. I always wish that who's the guy? Tommy Johnson. I wish that he had more of a role or a speaking role.
Especially because one of the payoffs is Pappy seizes on involving them in politics because people don't
Yeah,
care that they're an integrated band as long as they're playing like
yeah.
good folk music. And yeah, that makes me wish
feel
Tommy
like-
had more to do.
Or
Yeah.
like more lines or something. And I know that he when he plays guitar in the scene when they're around the campfire, that's actually the actor,
Yeah.
right? From what
Mhm.
I remember. And I don't know, I just think that he could have had more influential dialogue because he's kind of like there as a prop for the white guys to be like cool and integrated. And so I just feel like and part of me was wondering like if this was a difficulty with the Odyssey kind of tie-in or something, but I think that they just were like, let's highlight the white guys doing the cool thing that they're doing. I also thought that it was in that same kind of conversation in the opening scene, almost every like prisoner is African American, and the three guys are like white. So I think that that's interesting. And at least in some of the prison scenes, I don't want to like read too much into it, but it does like become something that's showcased like they're going to talk about race, and then they really just like make it about some white guys going on an adventure and using race to their advantage.
Yeah, even though being like integrated across racial lines is a deus ex machina at the end. They shy away from talking about it earlier.
And it was there from the beginning, and they could have done something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And even in the scene with Stephen Root, it's kind of like a punchline, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
so
I agree with that 1,000%.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to rank some of our Coen Brothers films?
Yeah.
I'm
down.
Tier list?
Do we? Yeah, I was like,
No,
we do a tier list on our show, but
no, I said there will not be a tier list.
What?
We're not stepping on toes.
Yeah.
We are not going to to be repeating content from another show. But I did want to get you guys just really quickly. We're going to go down a top 5. Each person's top 5 for Coen Brothers films.
Oh, I need to look up. I need to look them up.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I need a list.
Okay,
let me look.
Yeah. Pull it up. I have my filmography in front of me. And while you guys are looking that up, I'll start with mine.
Okay.
I'll start with mine. Dancing Sean here in the chat says No Country number 1. Hey, Dancing Sean, I'm gonna disappoint you right off the bat. I'm gonna put Big Lebowski number 1 for me.
I love I did Big Lebowski cosplay one time at a Lebowski show. I don't know if you know that. Yeah,
have you ever done Lebowski Fest?
No, I've never done Lebowski Fest, but they did. I went to like a Shadowcast performance of the Big Lebowski one time, and I went as the Big Lebowski, and my friend went as Donnie, and it was really fun. I got to sit with like a cool, like a crochet blanket over me and wear a weird hat. So it was really fun.
True story. One of my favorite Halloweens, I went and saw a band perform, and I can't remember what the name of the band is now, but what was awesome was they were in a full Lebowski group costume where they had their drummer was in a Big Lebowski type outfit. It was awesome. Just fantastic. So I have Big Lebowski number 1. I have No Country number 2, Raising Arizona number 3. I have Fargo as number 4. And then coming in at number 5 for me is Hail Caesar. Who wants to, are either of you, is someone ready, or do you guys need more time?
Daisy, do you want me to go? I have bad opinions. I just
plowed through that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Do you guys have questions about my top 5? Do you guys want to try to buy yourself some time as you guys formulate your top 5? So again, that's Big Lebowski number 1, No Country number 2, Raising Arizona 3. We had Fargo 4 and Hail Caesar 5.
That's close to mine.
Are you guys struggling because I don't have a tier list in front of you?
No.
Yes.
Well, a little bit. No, I got this. Okay, I'm trying to think of what's my order here. So, okay, maybe Oh Brother Where Art Thou 5. Burn After Reading 4.
That was going to be my 5. Okay.
That should be 5. Okay. Fargo 3. I think I'm also going to do Big Lebowski 2, which means Barton Fink is, or excuse me, Big Lebowski 1, which means Barton Fink is going to be my 2.
Okay. See, Barton Fink is one I need to go back and rewatch. Clearly.
Yeah, I was thinking about it and I need to rewatch it too. But Barton Fink is really good, especially for, two actors that were also in Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
For sure.
Yeah.
And Dancing Sean earlier had mentioned when we were talking about, or I should say more specifically, Daisy, when you were talking about some of the film specific cinematography things that the Coen brothers will do, he mentioned Barton Fink.
Barton Fink is a good one. That's also, I think, kind of an underrated Coen Brothers film too. Not that many people have seen it.
Well, I think it falls into that weird, like, in between, because I mean,
it's like kind of like an indie film, but not, because it's the Coen Brothers films. It's like very well funded, like huge production.
Yeah, it's weird because Raising Arizona for me is one of my first cinematic memories. Like my parent, I remember one of the very first I was born in 82. It came out in 87. So, I wasn't older than 5 years old. I remember my parents playing that for me. It's my first interaction with Nick Cage, John Goodman, a lot of that, the Coen brothers for sure. But and I remember Barton Fink. I remember that being on HBO a lot. But yeah, I mean, Burn After Reading is also really good. And one that I didn't get, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, both your thoughts on this. Inside Llewellyn Davis. That was one that got.
I'm getting there.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Because that was one that I know it got some critical praise, but I just didn't. I didn't get it on my first watch. I've only seen it once. So Dom, let's get to yours. Let's get to your top 5.
Okay. I'm struggling with what my 5th place is.
Okay.
That's my problem. I don't know what my 5th place is.
Let's start with number 1. Number one, and maybe we'll slowly get there.
Fargo. Number 1 with a bullet. Okay. Oh my God.
I feel like I've fallen asleep watching Fargo too many times.
Don't say that around Jared.
oh my, I won't. No, not around Jared.
No, yeah, Fargo, another one of those movies that it's like intimacy
Yes.
through goofiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fargo number 1 by far. And then 2 through 4 is the trilogy. Is in no particular order. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Buster Scruggs, and Llewyn Davis, where you've got like the cowboy like music movie, the old time folk music movie, and the folk music revival movie. I see those as a triptych.
There you go.
And I don't know what my 5th is. I don't know. Like, No Country for Old Men's a really good movie, but Burn After Reading is.
Burn After Reading.
I don't know. I quote Burn After Reading all the time. Like, I don't know. Whenever I see people being stupid on Facebook, I'm always like, this is like the deep intelligence, man. Yeah. But in a pinch, I'm going to say No Country for Old Men.
Gotcha. So Scott Wortman asked a question that I was actually thinking as we're talking about it. He says he likes the show Fargo just as much as the film, if not more. Where do you guys put that? And not only that, but Scott says he agrees.
Never got into the show Fargo, but I love Legion. So
yeah.
Same people made Legion as they made Fargo, so I bet I'd love it.
I haven't seen it. I also haven't seen Buster Scruggs, but I'm sure that I would like. I'd like it too.
The show Fargo is fantastic. I think there are only 3 seasons. And chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen 3 seasons of Fargo. If there's a 4th, there is maybe a 4th with Chris Rock, or is the 4th with Chris Rock? I don't know. Let me know, chat. We're gonna jump into our strongest performances. I'm going to go first on this one, just because I feel there's 4 seasons of Fargo right now. I feel, to me, Tim Blake Nelson, just on my first watch alone, kind of won the film. But then as I dug in and did the research, Dom, you've already mentioned he's a classics major. That won me over. Then finding out, one I knew that George Clooney didn't sing the big the big single from here.
Yeah.
Yep. But I was curious. I was like, do any of the gentlemen sing? Find out Tim Blake Nelson did actually sing in the Jailhouse Now.
Yeah, that's an old Jimmy Rogers tune.
Which, here we're gonna go off on a little tangent here. I've always had this guilty pleasure of yodeling. In the Jailhouse Now features some nice yodeling. So where do you guys stand on yodeling? Properly rated, underrated, overrated? We'll start with you, Daisy.
I think it is.
Don't feel bad to trash it if you don't like it.
No, I think that it's like a genre. So I'll start by saying like I don't really have any strong dislike toward any particular genre. So I think that it is probably aptly rated in the sense that it is an appreciated genre. Do I listen to it in my free time? Not really.
Fair enough. I find it very underrated. I don't know. I just feel like, for the celebration, we talked about how, there was this explosion of folk music after the time, and maybe with the exclusion of Jewel, who was a little bit into the yodeling thing.
Oh yeah.
With the exclusion of Jewel, I feel like a lot of these folk music genres did experience this little boom. Yodeling, maybe not so much. Dom, I feel like you're the guy who's going to support me on my underrated case here for yodeling.
Yodeling is the most underrated thing in American folk music.
Yes,
I think I
give
agree,
it to
yeah.
me. Tell me why.
Give it to you. Yodeling comes from the Alps. It comes from like Switzerland and like Alpine Germany, and a bunch of those people moved to North Texas. Okay, a bunch of those people settle North Texas. That's where you get like Luckenbach, Texas, all like those German ass Texas towns. Then you get this crazy. This is how I like used to teach like how folklore like spreads. I used to teach like cultural transmission through yodeling. Then you get like Chicano Americans like from like the Mexico Texas side of things. Then you have like the German Texas side of things. They all like teach each other how to yodel. And then there's a bunch of like Chicano Texans who get like who all build the railroads in Hawaii, and they go to Hawaii and they teach Hawaiians how to yodel. And then Hawaiians also teach the Texans how to play ukulele. They bring like how to play ukulele back to Texas, and they are yodeling with a guitar in their laps, but it's not loud enough. So they need to invent the resonator guitar, like the dobro, like all of this because Swiss people and German people settled in Texas. You have the invention of the dobro. Like, it's so cool. Yodeling is the coolest thing ever.
And let's take it back to your original kind of analogy of folklore to house rules, and kind of what I was saying. Like, you in college, you go to another house and you're like, oh, these house rules are pretty fucking cool. Like, I never even considered doing something this weird or cool.
Yeah.
We're going to do this, and, it's like House Cup is one of probably the big ones that comes to everyone's mind, but there's probably a million iterations of weird things or funny ways you can enforce a House Cup, or just offshoots of House Cup.
See, are you calling it House Cup? I call it King's Cup. Is that what you're talking about? See,
House
yeah.
yeah. Exactly. So different folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Dubuque, Iowa, it was, that House Cup came through. Everyone had to part way.
Mm-hmm.
If you were underclassmen, you better get off the fucking keg, to let that House Cup get full, and then just shut your mouth and don't make eye contact. No, I think that, I just think I think it's a really apt analogy because, as you're talking about yodeling and how it came from the Swiss Alps and then ended up in Texas, that's kind of like appropriating house rules and bringing, I went to Loras College, but when we would go to University of Iowa, or I would go to visit my friends at IU in Indiana, and we would experience these rules, we would bring them back, and they were foreign to everyone around us, but to us, there was something we had experienced, we had enjoyed them, and we knew that other people would eat them up. So, I think this is what we're talking about. This is folklore, and maybe in a more relatable way that, people who are not folklore doctors or masters in folklore might understand a little bit easier, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I had, as I said, Tim Blake Nelson, yodeling. You had mentioned the degree in classics. Also, I thought this was just really cool as someone who, has to write, shoot, create all their own content. While he was making this film, he was also editing the Shakespeare. It's basically the take on Othello.
Wow.
So he was editing that film, the 2000 version. It was called O. So the Shakespeare version of Othello, or not the Shakespeare version, but Hollywood's take on Othello.
Yeah.
I had John Goodman, and then I really enjoyed Pappy's whole crew. I really enjoyed just them as a whole. Every time they
some bitch.
Yeah, every time they rolled into his whether it was his nephew or grandson or son, Junior. I enjoyed him. Maybe Apex Mountain for tiny little ties, like the the little ties on a big body. I thought that was just a really good look.
That's another thing that I was thinking about in terms of how Coen Brothers kind of like put together the mise en scène or like the space of the film. The costumes are really good at emphasizing the parts about people that are funny in the same way that their camera work also does. Like they do a slow zoom on into people like right up in their face. The one I can think of from the film is when they introduce Big Dan, they do a slow zoom and he turns into the camera to reveal that he is the Cyclops, right? Yeah. And like it's funny, but it's also really
menacing.
Menacing and like intimate in that way. I think that like Pappy's like whole crew having the tiny ties is a good example of that, and the Charles Durning was going to be my suggestion for like underrated but really good performance in that film as well, because I think that he does a really good job of like towing the line between. He does a really good job of like being a politician that so clearly is like trying to bend to the constituency, but at the same time being like absolutely filled with hubris.
Yeah.
We don't get these very often, so I do want to interrupt and get to it. We have a question from the audience, a chat question in regards to the movie. Why do you guys think Ulysses Everett didn't ditch his two hapless comrades, since all they seemed to do was thwart his efforts? That's a question from Ted. Ted, hey, really good. Another close friend of the program. You guys may remember our inaugural kickoff. We gave some live music with Ted and Amy. So thanks, Ted, for that question.
But part of me wants to say, because that's how the story goes. And then another part of me wants to say, like bonding.
Yeah, his
he was alone. I mean,
his main problem is he's lonely.
Yeah, and
he has friends. This is this is a movie. This is above all things, it's a movie about having close male friendship in your 40s.
Yeah.
See, is that what it is? I disagree with that. I disagree with a hard disagree on that.
Really?
1,000%. I think, again, sorry. I hate disagreeing with you, Don, because I love you so much and I want to kiss you.
All right. Let's go.
But here's the thing. Ulysses has this moment, right, where he like explains to him that the whole treasure is just a lie, right?
Yes.
And in that moment, he kind of explains like, the reason I lied to you guys is because like we were all chained together. And I need you guys to fucking believe in something, right?
Well, why is he telling the truth now?
Oh, and the other thing too is when Delmer is like, "What's eating Pete?" Like he's like worried about him, and he's like, not just he doesn't just let him go, fuck off or whatever. He's like, well, "What's going on?" Like, hey, like, want to check in? Yeah.
Well, I believe Delmar and Pete are genuine. I just think that I think that Everett is kind of he's
a user.
Yes, 1,000%. He's got an end goal in mind. He's a smarter individual. He knows that at this point, like, really, he's better off with other individuals. And let's be real. Like, let's kind of like talk it through. Like, one of the first stops they make in the movie is to Pete's cousin, right? Mm-hmm. So there is like probably a utilitarian type, like atmosphere to him, to Everett, where he's like, okay, I know Pete has a cousin nearby, or I know he's got this cousin. We can go there. We can get our chains off. And then from there we can get going. But no, Dom, I guess to your point, I do think over time, I do think, yes, I do think that Everett grows.
They're a band. They're a band.
I think they do eventually kind of grow together. But I think in the, originally, I think that's one of those things that, to your question, Ted, I think, why doesn't he ditch him? Because they seem to thwart his efforts? Because that would be a very short movie, right? Right. If he just was like,
that was Daisy's point.
Right. Yeah. If if the minute he can, get lose these guys, the minute he gets the chains off, it's probably not as good of a movie. I'm trying to think. We had Daisy, did we touch on your strongest performance, or even Dom, did we touch on yours?
I would echo again. Charles Durning, I think, is great as Pappy, because I know that the main characters are obviously all fantastic people, and we love John Goodman, and we love all but like in terms of probably least likely person to mention as being a really good actor, I just think, Charles Durning is great.
Yeah, and Sean mentions even if he's self-centered in using them, they can still be comrades. 100%.
Yeah.
That's the story of every band. That's the lead singer in every band.
Yep.
Yep. Dom, let's get to some of your strongest performances.
This I'm parroting off of an interview I saw with the Coen Brothers, but John Turturro's teeth are the star of this movie.
Yes, it's so good.
Doing a lot of showing his teeth for emphasis, and it's incredible.
And a camera right up in those teeth too.
Right up in those teeth.
It's like the lighting is not for him; it's for his mouth. Yeah.
And then of course, the biggest shout outs to not just all the folk artists who show up at in the movie, who acted the movie, the Cox family, the Whites, and the Fairfield Four.
Yeah.
Everyone who doesn't get to act, Ralph Stanley, Gillian Welch, Alison Krauss. The music is the star of the movie to me.
The girls too, like all of Everett's kids.
The Peasall sisters. Yeah, they're all grown up now.
Yeah, and they're all also really good. Like even I'm just thinking, trying to film some of those scenes, their timing is great. And I wonder how many times they had to shoot that.
Yeah.
He's bona fide.
Yeah.
He's a suitor.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if I had to pick one actor, I think it's got to be Clooney, especially because I had to look this up. This is a year before Ocean's 11, and he's kind of already playing a fast talking, lovable crook. And I just love how he has he has a type that he does so well, and I love it. And love it when he's Danny Ocean. I love it when he's Ulysses Everett McGill. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the guy. This is the guy who I didn't think was very great. This is in my original watch. I was like, this is the person I would probably put it this way. If you replaced him with Bradley Cooper, in my mind, do you lose that much?
I think you do.
Well, my first watch, I wasn't sure of that. Right. And I think a lot of it, I was kind of maybe pinning on the fact that he didn't sing, and
sure.
And you have someone like Tim Blake Nelson who is singing, and, and you had mentioned earlier, these instances where you have people lip singing, could we have gotten someone to come in, whether it be Alison Krauss or whoever the case may be. But, I do think after kind of rewatching this a couple times, I have a greater appreciation to him, especially after reading some of Daisy's notes, as I've already mentioned, 1,000%. But the other thing is, I think after kind of connecting the dots, I realized maybe how influential this Everett or Ulysses character was. Brad Pitt and George Clooney are really close. I have a hard time kind of separating the Everett Ulysses character from Brad Pitt's turn in Inglourious Bastards and Fury.
Sure. Sure.
So those movies both, I feel like that's Brad Pitt pulling on a friend's performance. George
Clooney just has the shine that sparkles in his eye and on his teeth when he smiles. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how else to describe it.
He's the goddamn paterfamilias.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's I think it was when Danny Trejo was on the podcast, How Did This Get Made? They asked him, which actor do you least want to fight? And he was like, Clooney.
Danny Trejo said that?
So yeah, he's like, there's something in Clooney's eyes that freaks me out. How he can smile and his eyes still look like that. He's like, I do not want to fight him. He'd probably fuck me up. Yeah,
that's wild. So I'm not going to name this gentleman's name, but he's a close friend of my wife's, and he was a producer on the film Fury. Okay. And so that probably already outs him. I might have to go back and edit this, but but he told this story because he got as a producer on the film, he was working closely. He works very closely with the director of that film, and there's a story where Brad Pitt pulled him aside and kind of had this heart to heart where he was pointing at Shia LaBeouf, and basically it's like, if that kid ever gets his shit together, he'll be the best actor anyone's ever seen.
I love Shia.
Yeah, I mean, like he's got some personal problematic stuff that's come out recently, but outside of that, like as an actor, I agree. But it was just one of those things where it's kind of like these behind the scenes type. You realize that Brad Pitt's a pretty like, and again, Brad Pitt. Here we go. We're Cosmic Giggles. Floyd from True Romance. We're talking about him. He's not in this movie, but we're talking. So it does connect.
This is something everyone who works on Folkwise knows, but I don't know if people who watch Folkwise know. I am like the biggest fan of the show Hot Ones.
Oh my god! Yeah, me too. We both are, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, so Shia's appeance on that is
Shia's episode of
really
Hot Ones is incredible.
It's really good. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sean is such a great interviewer. Yeah, we totally
we always say when we're writing interview questions, we want a Hot Ones moment. Like we want
where
that
the person's where the person's like, that's a really good question. We
aim for a Hot Ones moment in every interview on Folkwise.
I think a lot about the difference in interview styles between folklorists and journalists and stuff, and he kind of does this interesting cool thing for journalism, which is have a conversation with people but also do journalism. And I think that we're have a conversation with people that's guided by set questions. It's we do the inverse of what Sean does. I don't know, but
I feel like
I think a lot about
convert. I feel like we could convert Sean from Hot Ones. He could
yes.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, if you can convert an idiot like me, then yes, you can convert Sean for sure. Totally off topic, but outside of Shia, who are some of your favorite other hot one guests?
I mean,
Tyler,
Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri's big.
Guy Fieri.
I love what's his name? The guy from Silicon Valley who I don't like. The guy from Cloverfield.
Oh, the guy with the red hair. It's kind of
yeah. Loved watching him get owned by the wings and pouring a bottle of water on his face. And then who else do I love? Paris Hilton's was really good.
Yeah,
Post Malone's was also really good.
Post Malone's was funny. I really liked Eric Andre's second one where he didn't make it. Yeah.
I love when
DJ Khaled only made
when two
DJ
wings in
Khaled,
his top. I was gonna say
he got stuff out of DJ Khaled no other interviewers got. It was incredible.
Yeah, for sure. When
Dua Lipa was on, right?
Yeah, when Key and Peele are on.
Key and Peele,
they're like chemistry.
Joinks.
Their chemistry was unbelievable.
Not Middleditch, the other guy. The big guy, not Middleditch. The guy who holds the camera in Cloverfield. I can't think of this guy's name, but I understand. Yeah, he's kind of like poison to work with on sets, and it is very cool to see him get owned by wings. Oh, and of course Coolio. How can you forget Coolio?
Oh yeah, Coolio was really good.
Coolio passing out. Yeah,
I mean, so many of them. Yeah,
so it's just one of my favorite shows. Mm-hmm. I love it so much.
It is a really great show.
And it's just Action Bronson, when Cousin Body comes out and takes a wing.
Yeah.
You're a big Action Bronson fan, Dom. I've noticed you quote him and
he's one of my favorites. Yeah,
another reason.
Both, like Action Bronson said, I'm on the rap and the food scene. Fuck that, sitting back eating poutine. TJ Miller, that's his name.
TJ Miller. Yep,
TJ Miller dumping a bottle of water on his head.
Yep, that's right.
I think my favorite Hot Ones moment. Action Bronson. He's a food guy, but food is like a culture. It's like a network to him, So I connect with that.
Yeah.
It's a way to bring people into his life.
And I also feel like he also has a number of divergent interests, right? Because he also has the Ancient Alien shows, and it's just he's also from the Bronx and loves hip hop and sounds like Ghostface Killah. So it's okay. Any other things that we missed from the strongest performances before I get into the surprise ending that you guys are, I'm sure, really, really, really interested in?
I think you got me.
I think great film, great acting, deserves all the accolades that it's received. Yeah.
Ancient Alien. Scott Warman says that Ancient Alien show was dumb as fuck.
I don't disagree.
Hey, but it's one of those things. You know what? There are certain things that are really dumb that I just find as It's like a Twinkie. It's not good for you, right? But it's a
And-
comfort food to a certain degree.
And for
Ancient Aliens is that show for me. It's like I can put it on and it's just like I can fall asleep to it. It's
And, like,
comfort.
There's a folklorist on Ancient Aliens. He's one of the
There's
serious
two.
There's who else?
Oh wait, no, not an Ancient Alien. Or was it Ancient? Sabina.
Well, there's
right?
Sabina was
Yeah,
on Ancient Aliens.
Sabina
Oh, I
Magliocco.
love Sabina.
Was it on Ancient Aliens?
But Tobe
Yeah, it was.
Thompson's on
Yeah.
Ancient Aliens. There's folklorists who show up in the first half to give like the serious opinions before.
Right.
Before they're
and-
like clipped
and
and
what
cut.
if it
and
gets
were
off the
Ancient
rails?
for
Aliens?
the worst. Yeah.
I think my favorite moment on the Action Bronson Ancient Aliens show that sums up why I love the show is when Earl Sweatshirt goes, "What is a biblical archaeologist?" And Bronson goes, "Body, biblical archaeology." And he goes, "Biblical ideology? No, archaeology, but also define biblical ideology too." And he goes into like a whole like stoned out of his gourd explanation of why people believe things. And I'm like, yeah, edit, like, make some of the sentences more coherent, and I would give that paper an A-. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, yeah, and during that explanation, like Bronson's probably like pulling 3 or 4 dabs.
Mm-hmm.
Like for real.
Yeah.
Ted says, "I love Oh Brother so much.
Aw.
Just had to pop in for this. I'm not sure if this has been said yet, but poor Tommy."
I think we've said that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. We really everyone here wants more Tommy.
We wanted more Tommy.
Yeah, 1,000%. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can make this happen. We're gonna see.
Okay.
I have a little surprise. Let's see if I can.
Okay. I'm excited.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. All right.
Are we doing a live react?
I don't think it's gonna work quite well.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So we do have.
Are you sharing 2 screens?
Yeah.
Or just
Well,
share-
here's the
can you
thing. I have
share
one screen, but I have them both. Let me see if I can do it like this. Does that
There-
look better for you guys?
It's super stretched. You're gonna have to tell us what's going on. Can you
Okay.
zoom in a little?
Otherwise- Oh my gosh.
Yes!
Oh my god.
We love this for them.
Okay.
We love this.
We
Oh my
love
god.
this.
Bringing this full circle.
Can you
Oh
guys
my
see it a little
God.
bit? You guys can see it.
To quote Daisy,
Yeah.
can you zoom in? Can you like zoom in a little bit?
Oh, let me see. How can I zoom?
Wow.
Like
wow, wow, wow,
control,
wow, wow.
control, and like
This
plus
is so
or something.
special. You telling us not to get excited? How can I not get
What do
excited
you mean,
about this? What?
Yeah. Okay, this is getting better and better. The more you zoom in, it's getting better
Yeah,
and better.
that's good.
Okay,
That's
hold
good.
on. Let me get
Yeah.
a couple more.
Oh my God.
Oh my god.
Daisy.
Okay. I'm so excited.
All right.
What? Okay.
All right. So we do have tier lists. I said we
Okay.
weren't going to do tier lists because it's kind of like stepping.
Wait,
on-
Tommy, do you have the
No,
the
this is
spiel? Do you have the
hysterical.
spiel memorized?
I don't have the spiel.
Can I go for you?
Please
Yeah,
do.
I'll
Please
do
do.
it.
Daisy, have you ever made a tier list?
I have seen them on some shows. We have made a tier list before. I think I
For-
understand.
For people who don't know, tier lists come from fighting games. They're a way of ranking character choice, but recently they've also become a way of ranking things in everyday life, and that's why I love them as a folklorist. And today on the TMC podcast, we have a tier list for you. Why don't you tell Daisy about what the tier list is?
Yeah, what
Today-
is this?
Today, Daisy, we are going to be ranking some of the more popular cryptids
Oh
out
my
there in the
God.
world. So, for those of you who are not familiar with tier lists, S is the most popular, D is the least popular. Daisy, we can create something lower than D if you want to put something lower than D.
Okay.
All right.
Oh my god! Wow. Okay, so
Oh
I
my
can
God.
see some of the pictures, but you might have to explain to me all of them.
All right,
And I also
so-
want to say, everyone else in chat, you're on notice. You're on
Yeah,
like this
oh my
this
God.
is the best.
This is
Everyone
my
here we go.
number one.
Twitch chat,
Okay,
pay attention.
here we go. Let's go. Okay.
So here we go. We have a tier list
Okay.
with some of the more popular
Okay.
cryptids. So what we have going around the bottom, I'm going to start with the left, moving to right.
Okay.
We have the Bigfoot,
The Bigfoot, the Sasquatch,
the
wild
abominable
man,
snowman, the Yeti.
Yes.
Yes, all of these things.
Oh man. Okay.
We have Chupacabra.
Chupacabra. Okay.
We
Okay.
have the Fae, aka Fairy.
Okay. Okay.
We have a Jersey Devil.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
We have
Just
a
wants pizza.
We have a mermaid.
Okay. Okay.
We have Mothman.
Oh my god.
We have-
some of these are gonna be hard.
We
to
have
rank.
Nessie, the Loch
Yes.
Ness monster. And we
Yes.
have a thylacine, aka the Tasmanian tiger. I'll
Yes,
get it right this time.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Which order? Which one should I go in? Why? Choose one for me. Tell me which one I should rank right now.
Well, I mean, I might as well. Let's just start with S1 thylacine.
Oh,
right?
definitely. Yeah. Top tier. The thylacine is number one. I wrote my master's thesis on the thylacine. It's an animal that went extinct in the 1930s, but people still see it today. So cool. It's a marsupial. It's thyla hype. Yeah.
Thyla hype, get it?
It's the on Folkwise Live, we have one of our emotes is thyla hype. If you sub to us at tier 2, you get thyla hype, which is like a riff on Komodo hype. Because they have just very, very large, wide opening jaws and are great. Wow, I could talk forever about them. Go see my go see my episode of Folkwise on one of the VODs on our YouTube channel. We played a thylacine game that time, which was really fun. S tier, so cool. They're cool because they're a real creature that you can actually see, like taxidermy of in museums, but then they went extinct. But are they really extinct? ? That's
true
why
story.
Really cool.
True story, Daisy. Last Wednesday, I went to the Field Museum here in Chicago, and I searched for about an hour and a half for a picture of a thylacine because the last time I was at the Field Museum, I remember seeing a thylacine in one of the exhibits. Turns out it is not one of the permanent exhibits. It was a
rotating exhibit.
It was a touring exhibit called Extinct. So I'm
cool.
sorry. I'm sorry. But we did get to see the lines of Sabo.
Yes, cool.
Very cool. Let's go with Bigfoot. Where does Bigfoot fall on your tier?
Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but I used to live in the Pacific Northwest. I lived in Oregon. I just did my undergrad at University of Oregon, which is in Eugene. And everybody loves a good Bigfoot there. I read a cool book for my master's thesis. Oh my gosh. I'll send you what the title is of it, but the thesis of the book was like people who go search for Bigfoot don't actually want to find Bigfoot. They want to be Bigfoot. Like they want to be away from civilization in the mountains. And
I want to be Thoreau.
Yeah, and I had a brain blast about it. I don't know if I agree in every instance, but anyway, I think Bigfoot's gonna be A tier.
Okay. All right,
big connection, very hype. Everybody knows. Not as many people believe.
Right. Yeah. No. Probably maybe one of the more household names in the cryptid world.
Yes.
Chupacabra.
Oh, Chupacabra's really good. I think I'm gonna put Chupacabra on A list, but after Sasquatch, because I don't know if anybody who speaks Spanish, Chupacabra in Spanish means goat sucker. They're like a vampire-esque creature that comes and eats goats and people, ? But I like them because they're an interesting comparison to the thylacine, actually, because there's some early legends about thylacines that they were also sanguinous, like that they drink blood as their primary source of nutrition, which is interesting. So I think that and they kind of look, similar, dog-like esque, wolf-esque, even though neither of them really are that specifically. So so very cool.
And I find the Chupacabra interesting for a couple of reasons. One of which, they look like a dog with mange, for the most part, which to me seems like, okay, that's a very real world explanation for the phenomenon. But also because we were on, and this may be a little close and near and dear to Dom's heart. We were on a White Rapids trip, or just a little drinking and canoeing trip down in Indiana, and one of our girlfriends had to stop off. She took a poop. We took a picture of it, and we convinced all of our friends that it was a Chupacabra poop.
Nice.
That's cool. That's how you keep the story going.
Where in Indiana was that?
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I remembered exactly where it was, but
it was Gnawbone. I hope it was. That would be like a great Gnawbone, Indiana story.
It probably was, and you know what? It was. I was spending the weekend with all kids who went to IU. So
sure, yeah.
So yeah, so I wasn't sure about this one, Daisy. Fairies, are they cryptids?
This is an interesting one. I personally would not put them in the realm of cryptid.
I'm such an idiot.
No.
No,
you're not. This is really complicated because.
Can I just say, you're so lucky this is a Monday.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Imagine if your show was Thursdays and we had to talk about fairies, we'd be cursed.
we would be cursed. Yeah.
This is true.
So I the and it's interesting, right? Because like with my definition of contested existence is puts this in another interesting like category. But I would put fairies either in more of a so fairy tales, the narrative
Yeah.
that pairs with fairies, or and like legends, which is the like narrative genre that pairs well with cryptids. In the context of the way people talk about them, usually it's that they don't believe that fairies exist. They suspend their disbelief for the sake of the story. However, I don't know, fairies are interesting because there are a lot of, especially like recently with neo-pagan religions and stuff, there's an upsurgence of like religious belief in fairies. And so I'd put them closer to a category of something like the Holy Ghost.
So
which,
would like a
like-
leprechaun fall into that category too? That's just more like an offshoot, just random question I had.
You know,
I don't
I'm
know.
I'm not sure I know enough about leprechauns, but
Yeah,
I
we
would
need to go
say
to Ireland right
I
now
know,
and start
now I'm
interviewing
like-
people about this.
I know, I'm like, wait
Let's
a second.
do that.
I think a leprechaun, yeah, would be sort of like a very specialized type of fae. In the same way like maybe a troll or like a nymph would
Oh,
be
yeah.
like in all of that kind of the area. So I don't know. Maybe
Let's skip fairies. Let's skip fairies.
no. Let's put if they're really
Or we
cool.
can put them in D.
Maybe they can go in D for subject to question might change later depending on the rest of the lineup here.
Sure.
Gotcha. Next animal.
I'll give you a hint. I feel somewhat similarly about mermaids,
I kind of had a feeling.
but
Yeah.
it's also interesting too.
The mermaid
Anyway.
thing, I think, is a little bit more blurry.
Also, I think part of, well, so maybe I'll rank mermaids now too. Maybe I'll put, okay,
Yeah.
I like mermaids a little more than fairies, so I think I'll put them maybe on C, just
Okay.
for the sake of the tier list.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting part about mermaids is there's like a transformation element to some. I'm thinking of like selkies in which you actually put on the skin of a seal to become a seal, for example, which is like kind of mermaid. But then
I was going to ask
also-
you if you've seen Luca.
I haven't seen Luca, no.
Oh, so good. And also kind of, I think, maybe
Mhm.
in this gray area.
Yeah, well, and mermaids are interesting too because there's so many legends about their. They might be mermaids. We could write a paper on why mermaids could be cryptids because the legends that are told that people talk about are like that they saw like I don't know manatees or whales or something that would.
Also, they're kind of confused with sirens, right?
Yeah, right.
What if I told you to? I had a student write this paper once.
What'd they say?
It's complicated. They problematized like it was like our mermaids animals, and they looked at like aquatic like shape shifting the traditions across the world. It was a pretty cool paper.
It makes me like I'm now my like animism brain is like popping off here, which is thinking about like
Nagas too.
Yeah, like non-human others having souls and like what does that mean in terms of like how we understand their relationship to humans or each other or whatever. But like mermaids are cool too because the legends that are around them are also like really similar to a lot of other cryptids in terms of evidence of their existence.
And
so
isn't that in the original Little Mermaid? Doesn't she want to get a soul?
I think she does want to get a soul. Yeah, and then at the end of that text, she becomes fae. She like becomes sea foam, or I don't know. Maybe fae is the wrong way. She becomes weather, which is like kind of
like
weird.
elemental, but
She's the storm queen.
Yeah, she goes. She like ascends to purgatory, right? And she's like,
basically.
there, and then it ends.
Yeah, but again, that's all in this like very Western, like Abrahamic religious context too. So I would be curious what mermaids are like and how they're perceived in other cultures. So I would put them. They're in like a weird liminal. I wish that there was like a liminal category on the tier list because maybe they all would actually go in there. But
Now,
the
actually, Daisy, when they make tier lists for Super Smash Bros. Melee, there's always a liminal space that is called Icy's tier, which goes between B, and C, and that's just for the ice climbers because they're a liminal space. Yeah. So
Okay,
there's a precedent for that.
Well, and then Death Loris says mermaids are humanoid cryptids, but that's also like Bigfoot, right? Like,
Sure.
or
Well,
especially,
he's hominid, at least. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
like,
yeah, and,
mhm.
and when you're talking about like again, I don't want to keep going back to this
Yeah.
point, but like, hey, I'm not interested in whether or not mermaids exist, but why is the myth of mermaids so pervasive?
So pervasive, yeah.
Yeah, like Death Lords mentioned Nagas, which I think are from like
Mhm.
Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But the thing that jumps out to me is like all life kind of came from the ocean, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's also
So
like,
I mean, again, I don't want to simplify or even like present the idea that like, hey, here's some dullard that just came up with an explanation that folklorists have been like trying to figure out for centuries.
No, but the thing is, don't treat it as like a dullard. Like folklore
Yeah.
is like trying to explain how everyday, like everyday things, you know,
Right.
yeah, like regular
everyday
stuff.
explanation
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, in my search for those explanations, right? Those are where my mind jumps to, right? So something like this with mermaids, it's like, well, hey, if all life kind of crawled out of the ocean, like, why wouldn't there be something like us that crawled out too?
Totally. Yeah. Well, and that's part of, I think, a lot of the mystery of it.
Right.
My brain is now like totally buzzing with is this all just do like white Protestant Westerners, right? Do WASPs just not understand mermaids because we don't understand animism and like there's dominion over our relationship with other like animals, and that this is like totally not a subject to question in other parts of the world or other cultures. I don't know. Maybe it's just. Anyway.
I don't know that answer either, Daisy. You are probably much more well suited to answer that than I am. I promise you that.
This is a very provocative tier list for me today.
Here we go. Well, we got three more. We got three more
classics here.
Yeah. The next is the Jersey Devil.
Jersey Devil. So
hold on, and let me let you think about this. Can I just pat myself on the back really quick because
please, this is so good.
Because hold on, I created this tier list without your guys' knowledge. You guys can confirm that.
Yes, no idea.
And then right off the bat, I asked you about cryptids. Like I was gonna go to Dom. I was gonna go to Dom and be like, "Hey Dom, what are some of Daisy's favorite cryptids?" Because I'm putting together this list, but I really didn't want to spoil it. I wanted him to be surprised too. So I was like, you know, what? I'm just gonna go with some of the more pervasive sort of myths that I'm familiar with.
Yeah,
and then like. I was so happy when I asked you the cryptid question, and you're like, the Jersey Devil, the Chupacabra.
Oh my God, Bigfoot. All mentioned. Yeah,
I was like,
yes.
Oh,
nailed
it.
Yes.
You had a hot ones moment. Nailed it.
Keep going, girl. Keep going.
Oh my gosh, let's go. All right, so let's see. So it's Jersey Devil. So we just did on Folkwise Live on not our show, but on our sometimes Wednesday show, the Call of Cthulhu stream. They just did a series that I think has one more episode coming out that one of my partners is the GM for, and so then that was all based on the Jersey Devil, and it's like a resurgence or
pizza.
Yes, it's our the historical moments in which were really important for the Jersey Devil. And so
describing it.
And so it centers on the legends like of in particular historical context, which is really fun. And so I like the Jersey Devil more than I think I ever have before. So maybe let's go. I'm giving too many A's, so maybe we'll go B+. So that'll be our top B+ here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the next one is Mothman, which you talked about one of your partners running this kind of secondary. Yeah. Now he goes by Mothman.
Also. Yeah.
Right.
No. Like in but that was our first one we did was Mothman.
Yeah, gotcha.
So same series, different playthrough. Mothman was really fun. I can't believe the one that got away. Mothman's cool for so many reasons. Very high.
This is a real kinetic scenario.
This is a real kinetic scenario. I know. I'm like trying to figure out. I have the same, I think, take about perhaps Nessie too, in terms of the influence of tourism and the relationship to cryptids. And like,
point, yeah.
It, like Bigfoot also, I mean, all of these kind of have like because they're so regionally connected, the region that they are found in or could be found in is always like really leans into like local culture of this. And so the Mothman is one of those, Loch Ness Monster is one of those, Bigfoot, and then I would argue thylacines are kind of one of those too.
Totally.
Yeah. Death Lorisis Mothman is S.
Hey, you want to know something,
This
Daisy?
is a hot take. I don't know. Yeah, what?
Dom thinks Mothman is S.
Dom thinks Mothman's S. I think
Because you know what, you're saying all of these things, but is any other cryptid a bisexual icon like a Mothman?
I was gonna
like
say
the way queer culture has embraced Mothman.
Thylacines maybe could rival, but also like all cryptids are extremely queer because of their contested existence and isolation, and there's like lots of
yes,
but also Mothman.
they all look up to Mothman.
It's true. I think I am also. I was debating between S and A, and I think that I'm going to put Mothman the lower half of S because iconic.
Let's go, Mothman.
Yeah, let's go Mothman.
There we go.
And I think, I know. I wish Nessie should be a queerer icon. Honestly,
honestly,
it could happen. I think Nessie's kind of out of the moment, for the moment. But I think maybe Nessie is going to go. I think, actually, top of B. B plus. I like Nessie. Some people think Nessie is like a dinosaur or a plesiosaur, which is not technically a dinosaur for all of the paleontology nerds. I know the paleontology. I'm just saying it for the public. Okay.
Hey, no, that's good.
But lots of hype, but I think it's out of the loop right now, and maybe we'll have to get some Nessie hype in the chat or something. But
so one of
Death Lore says Nessie should be S tier first.
No, I think top of B is generous. I think top of B is generous.
That's gonna.
I wouldn't put Nessie under Bigfoot. And then Chupacabra also like so iconic.
Yeah, I know. Especially Chupacabra too. I mean, I think I feel comfortable with this list.
Okay. So
I think Mermaid could rise, but I could be convinced more. It's just one I haven't thought enough about, but I am fascinated by this question.
Yeah, no, I think mermaid.
Mermaids are like a cryptid, but that's like a really specific kind of like like fake taxidermy creation, and that's why I'm like, is that its own category of mermaid?
It was a monkey with a fish tail.
Or like, is it a sea monkey? It's a crypt. Anyway, okay, I'm thinking hard about this one, so you'll have to come back and ask me in like a month after I've done way too much research on mermaids.
So we're just gonna do a quick little run through, a quick review. We have thylacine, really entrenched as a hard top.
That's a very personal one that I think can be just unchanging, and I understand if it would be different for anybody else who's watching.
That's right. We have Mothman.
Also, let's go Tassie Tigers Cricket Club.
Let's go Tassie Tigers Cricket Club. Let's go Tassies. Yeah.
Then the only other S club we have is we have Mothman in the A tier. We have Bigfoot, Chupacabra. Coming up in the B, we have Nessie and the Jersey Devil. C, we have Mermaid, and in the disputed D category, we have the Fairy, the Fae.
Yeah,
liminal space.
Yes,
that's right. Now, Daisy, perhaps you thought you were the only one doing a tier.
My God!
Oh, thank God!
Perfect.
I was gonna say we got it. Oh my God!
This is good.
So we're gonna do
another really good one.
We're gonna do.
Telling my roommate, like Bloomington has more restaurants per capita than anywhere I've ever lived.
Okay,
really?
So we're doing Bloomington eateries.
God, this is also so good.
For those that were paying close attention, Dom is an IU graduate.
That's right.
I have a lot of close friends who are IU graduates as well. So I want to tell you that they helped me put this list together.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we're going to talk if there's anything that's just like glaringly missing from this list. But just a quick run through what we have. We have Dagwood Subs.
Oh, hell yeah.
We have La Charrera. We have Macri's Deli. We have Mother Bear's Pizza. Nick's Pub. Pizza Express. And we also have the Village Deli.
Oh.
So we're going to start with Dagwoods. Where do we put Dagwoods on your S tier of Bloomington grub locations?
All right. Dagwoods is going. Okay, this is kind of like the thylacine. This is kind of like
Yeah.
the thylacine because Dagwood's is uh objectively, like a very fratty like sandwich shop. Objectively, not the best sandwiches in the world. Dagwood's did 32-ounce coffee for $1, and they opened till 1 o'clock. And so much of my dissertation was written at Dagwood's. So I got it. Dagwood's has got to be S because I wouldn't be a doctor without it.
There we go. Dagwood's hard. And what's your sandwich from Dagwood's? Do you have a specific sandwich? I know you're going there for the coffee because it's open late.
Yeah, I'm going there for the coffee because it's open late. But I'm gonna say turkey and coleslaw and cream cheese.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna jump around a little bit. This is my food, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to, influence you, but my favorite, Nick's Pub.
Oh my god, the okay, playing Sync the Biz.
Yes.
The Biz fries.
We've talked about this.
Nick's Pub is always where we would take when people came in for like IU folklore events, like professors or other grad students, we take them right to Nick's.
Yeah.
Oh, I have so many good memories of playing Sync the Biz.
This is where I learned to play Sync the Biz.
Sync the Biz is one of the best drinking games I've ever played. I think now, and I will say, other than fries, the food at Nick's is garbage. But
the pizza was not bad.
I think the pizza's bad. I think the pizza's bad.
Okay.
And I by the end of my time in Bloomington, I was only eating fries, but I was a better person for it. I was also much heavier in grad school. But I'm gonna say strong A. I'm gonna say strong A for Nick's on the strength of Biz Fries and Sync the Biz.
Gotcha. Okay, the next one is Macri's Deli. This was one that I don't have any familiarity with, but all the IU people I talked to, when this came up, everyone started saying, "Oh God, I want Macri's Deli."
I think Macri's is B.
B.
Most of my memories, I didn't eat there a lot. Most of my memories of Macri's, because it was right at the end of the Krampus parade, was going into Macri's to drink after Krampus parade, and I really. I'm gonna say Macri's is a smooth B.
Yeah, fair enough. So we have Village Deli next.
Okay, Village Deli has some of the worst food in the world, and is always full of hungover frat boys. However, the platonic ideal of pancakes. Like the best pancake I've ever had. Everything I want out of a pancake. Everything I want out of a pancake. I miss those fucking pancakes. So I'm gonna put them at the top of B.
Top of B. There we go. We have Mother Bear's Pizza.
My neighbor, by the way. I live down the street from Mother Bear's. And that is to say, Bears of Mother Bear's and Bears, like the bar side, Bears was where I really hung out. Bears was where I was in karaoke league at Bears. We used to make our own costumes, do our own choreography in the back of the bar at Bears. But if we're talking Mother Bears now, Mother Bears, I could go either way on. The Mother Bears is like a real good example of the Indiana style pizza that's like not quite the Chicago. It's not quite. It's made in a smaller deep dish. But I will say some of the toppings they come up with at Mother Bear's, like the Divine Swine Pizza, oh, so great. But also on the opposite end, the spinacoli, like the spinach broccoli, garlic and cheddar, great pizza. Just you are eating mostly bread when you go to Mother Bear's. I'm going to say low A.
Low A, okay.
And mainly that's nostalgia for Bears, not quite Mother Bear's.
Gotcha. And then La Charrera.
Everyone knows the only good Mexican food in Bloomington is from a food truck. Like if it's not in a food truck, nobody gives a shit. D.
Gotcha. And then Pizza Express.
All right, Pizza Express is interesting. Pizza X is very interesting because there's all these urban legends about Pizza X. Pizza X is some of the worst pizza I've ever had in my life. Pizza X, you eat Pizza X if you're dying.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, they throw in Tootsie Rolls for free. Like,
yeah, but also, can I say Tootsie Rolls like the worst candy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's like not
Tootsie Rolls aren't going to do anything. They're just going to ruin your night. There's an urban
chocolate
legend.
Plastic.
There's an urban legend about Pizza X is that like on big party weekends they'll throw in, if you get an extra large pizza, they'll throw in free condoms. But never met anyone who actually got a Pizza X condom. I've just heard legends about it. That being said, the iconic plastic cup when you order a drink from Pizza X, I still have Pizza X cups that I keep my I'll get it out when you cut back to me that I keep my like my pens in Pizza X cups. So some of the worst cuisine of my life. But there are the cool legends about them, and I'm glad they gave me free cups. So see.
So we got 2 late submissions that I don't have pictures for, but I'm just going to ask you really quick where they would kind of fall in here. So actually, I take it back. 3 late submissions.
Okay. Hit me.
So we have he says, how about them corn dogs from the drive-in? I don't even know what that means.
I've never been to the I've never been to the drive-in. I never actually made it to the drive-in, but I heard the food at the drive-in was great. The drive-in up in not in Bloomington, but like a little north, right?
Yeah.
Never been. But I 2 of my friends, Brian and Cindy, they're married, huge movie buffs. They were, especially during COVID, going to the drive-in all the time. Never actually went.
So this is a great answer. So this is from I have a couple friends. So 2 friends who went there. We call them the twins, Josh and Jason Spearbecker. They're now in a band called the Suns in LA. But
Okay.
he goes all the food courts with freshman meal points cards, aka what did he say? Foster Food Court was fire.
The food court.
Foster Food Court. Does that make any sense? These guys would have been a little bit before your time too, Dom.
That's a little bit before my time. The one I'm most familiar. I mean, like I taught in the dorm, so I know like I've eaten it, like my fair like kind of teaching double headers and having to stop by the food court. That's not an uncommon occurrence, but Forest is my favorite. I'd say there is a whole. What I appreciate the most about the food courts, there's a food court culture and like a whole like rivalry between the food courts, which I think is really cool. Shouts out to my friend Tyler who worked at the Forest food court, and did he work at Forest or did he work at the one on 10th Street? Anyway, there's rivalries between like the employees at the food courts. It's really interesting. It's fun.
Folklore in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly.
The last place, and again, this was one. So there was a couple individuals who didn't actually know the name of this place. This is how they just. This is how
the Trojan horse. Where's the Trojan horse?
Well, hold on. This is how they described it. I wanna read the description, and then someone came through with the name. There was some white trash bar Wes and I found on our way to Vermont. Used to pass a collection bucket for money to pay for smoking tickets, so people could still rip heaters in there. Free wing nights, townies, aka our friend Levi's friends. Can't remember the name.
The Office Lounge.
No, it wasn't the Office Lounge.
It's not the Office Lounge.
Wes comes in and says the Refuge Inn on West 3rd Street.
West 3rd. I don't know that. I don't know that one.
Okay. It says
the Office Lounge is on East 3rd Street. That's what I was thinking.
Okay, and maybe it's the same one. Maybe Wes just had it confused. Said Carmela was the bartender. So if you know Carmela, shout out to Carmela.
No, I don't know. Can I talk about the ones we're missing?
Yeah, please do.
Trojan horse for the souvlaki. Oh my god, I miss. I love the Trojan horse. We gotta have Naughty Dog. Of course, I'm obsessed with the hot dog place.
Yeah, of course.
Judy's Kitchen. The former guest on Folkwise, Kathleen Kuo, went to Judy's Kitchen and she got the Taiwanese beef noodle soup, and she was like, "Oh, it's fine." And then by the end of her bowl, she's like, "I have to call my mom in Taiwan," And then, but my favorite restaurant that is not on this list. Well, no, because Dagwood's made it on there, but Buffalo Louie's at the Gables. For the Fire and Ice Challenge, where you have to eat 12 Lucifer wings and a quart of ice cream.
That sounds like my challenge. That sounds like a challenge made for me.
Shouts out to, this is a new one, so they definitely wouldn't know it, but Korea restaurant, where you get a like Korean, like $5 for like a bowl of soup, and you get to watch K-pop videos. I loved that place.
You do love some K-pop.
I do.
Yeah, you do. Really quickly, who's the guest tomorrow on Folkwise?
Daisy, you wanna handle this?
Yeah. But before that, I want to say thank you so much for those tier lists. That was so fun.
God! What a fun
like
surprise.
wow, what a yeah. In the notes, you're like, don't get too excited. This is gonna be great. Yeah, it was really great. Super fun. Yeah, so tomorrow night from 8 p.m. to midnight Eastern, we are going to have our guest, Dr. Robert Geiker. He's going to be on in the middle 2 hours playing Hades with us, and we're going to talk about myth, which is something that he's really interested in.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, but more specifically, he has played like, I don't know, every game under the sun. So we're going to talk
he's
about.
a gamer.
Yeah, he's a big gamer. And so we're going to talk about like meta gaming folklore. So in addition to myth and Hades and that kind of fun stuff, also like how gamers talk about gaming, and like what kind of gaming equipment that you should use, or like what are the best ways to communicate about different games. We can talk about memes. We can talk about all kinds of different stuff. So it's going to be a little bit of a mix between some like more traditional ideas of what folklorists do, but with a twist of applying them to like this sort of immersive storytelling that is video game. So
It looks like. Oh, okay. Daisy, we can keep talking about.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, hey, and I want you to know, Daisy, Bobby Geiger stayed on the call with me the other night, and after we were done talking to him, and he watched me beat Hades with the lance. So
okay, so it's possible.
So it's possible I can beat Hades on stream. I am on my other file. I gotta grind it a little bit, but
yeah.
Where I might be, I'm going to beat Hades on stream one day.
It'll be really fun.
The fists are my best weapon. It'll be the fists.
Yeah. Yes.
And
we haven't. Yeah, we haven't played Hades in a while too. I think the last time we played Hades was when we interviewed Dan Peretti.
Oh no, we played it.
Oh no, we played it. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, we played it on like an all team night. Yeah.
Yeah, all team night. Yeah, that's what Hades and hot takes.
Yeah, Hades hype house and hot takes. Yeah, that was the night the topiary creatures joke was born.
It certainly was.
Yeah, the topiary creatures.
Yes, very pleased to meet you. So I don't really know where our wonderful host just went, but you can find us.
You don't have a. I mean, we have leave studio, but you don't have a end stream button.
Nope. I don't, but whatever.
Should we just?
We could just wrap up.
Oh, it could be a costume change. What do we do?
Oh my god!
Should we like sing until he comes back?
I was gonna say let's just.
Will we get content ID'd if I sing "Mana Causing Sorrow"?
Oh my god, I love that song so much.
Can I go for it? Can I go for it?
I mean, only if I can sing it with you.
Oh, well, the timing's too hard to do.
Oh, that's true. It'd be weird. Yeah. Okay, sing. Yeah, go ahead, sing it.
I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble all my days.
So good.
I bid farewell from old Toledo, the place where I was born and raised.
The place where he was born and raised. Yeah, so good. Well, I don't know if y'all want to watch us tomorrow. We're on
Folkwise.
Twitch.tv/Folkwise, all one word. Sorry.
No, it's do what you're going to do. Excellent. Do what you're going to do and Google Folkwise.
Google Folkwise Twitch. You'll find it.
Folkwise Twitch. We'll be on. We'll be on tomorrow at 8 Eastern until at least midnight.
Sometimes we go later. It'll depend on how much fun we're having and whether or not Dom beats Hades on stream. So
yeah. Cook it close. And let's see.
You can follow
us on Folkwise. You can also
follow us on Instagram.
Subscribe for $5 or give us if you link your Amazon Prime account with your Twitch account, you can subscribe for free for a month, and Jeff Bezos will give us his money. So you can get the cool emotes.
You can send us
Jeff
bits.
Bezos, consider not coming back from space. You can send us bits. Bits.
You can follow us on our socials. Yeah,
follow us on socials. Our Insta is hype. Our YouTube gets the highlights. We also make some original content like video essays and stuff on YouTube. And is this a costume change?
I'm gonna be shocked.
Is he gonna be a Cyclops?
Oh, Big Dan. It'll be so funny.
I wish it was.
Tiny tie.
We don't have camera. We just have audio.
Yeah. I'm trying to get that coming through. It might be taking a second. It wasn't I just got booted from my. I wish it was something cooler. I have.
And it's funny you got booted, but like the stream didn't die.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that was really weird.
Yeah, so it's Dom and Daisy holding it down like it's Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Well, you guys talk. Well, can you guys tell me who the guest? I know you guys were talking about who the guest is.
Yeah.
So what is the guest covering in because I need to do my research so I can actually ask some questions.
We're playing Hades. He's a myth scholar, but
Dr. Robert
also
Geiger.
Dr. Robert Geiger, but we're also talking about gamer folklore.
Yeah, so stuff that gamers do when they talk about gaming.
Yeah.
So it's kind of meta for us, which will be kind of fun.
But yeah, I'm trying to still on the quest to beat. I've beaten Hades. I've got the true ending off stream, but I'm trying to beat Hades on stream, like always. And
there you go.
there you
Whoa,
go. It's just
I'm
me,
back.
Tickles, and I sell the truth.
Yeah.
Genesee on down to Revelation.
That's right.
No, Mandolin, you show up on Twitch all the time, and you you banter,
you comment,
you banter. That's working Twitch. That's working Twitch. Yeah.
Can I be honest? Can I be honest? She points to something that's actually kind of true. So I was actually like using bits without knowing that they actually costed me money for a while. Like there was a period of time where I was like, hey, do bits actually help you guys? And are these like, what am I doing? And you guys were like, yeah, no,
thousands and thousands of bits.
No.
You sent us so many bits.
No. Well, hold on. Can I just so you guys can feel a little bit better?
Okay.
That was when I was giving very small amounts of bits.
Okay.
Once I
Then
realized,
you started sending 1,000 at a time.
Yeah. And then you knew.
Yeah. Once I realized, okay, they're actually getting this money. Okay, I'll send a little bit more. And that it actually cost me money, I'll send some.
Hey, speaking of bits and subscriptions and everything, I just swagged out the Twitch stream this week, for like kind of mid-season upgrade, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of quotes from the show and other sounds and images that we play when people send us bits or subscriptions. So and Daisy helped me come up with the ideas, but hasn't actually heard them yet. So
I'm
excited for them to hear it.
Yeah, I'm so excited you isolate all this out. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I isolated famous, like, kind of origins of inside jokes, so to speak.
God. Yeah, so somebody's got to come and listen. Somebody new has to come and listen and follow and subscribe. We need like one of each so that we can hear
and we
them
need
all.
someone to host, because that's my favorite one I did. I did the host one.
Yeah, the host
We need
one.
someone to host us. It's so funny.
Okay, perfect. I'm excited.
Anyway, yeah. If I can spoil, can I spoil one?
Yeah, please.
If you send us bits starting tomorrow, if you send us bits on Twitch, you will hear, instead of like the chime tone, you will hear Daisy going, "Hell yeah!"
It's really good.
That's awesome. Well, and you know what? Apparently, I'm not the only one, because Deathloris said that she just recently used how to learn the points. Yeah, and Mandolin also.
Can I ask you how you started watching us on Twitch?
Yeah, how did you
It sounds
find
like you
us?
weren't a Twitch person before us.
No, I was not. You guys were my
Like the first.
Andy, Jared and I we're
don't
seriously
worry.
talking about a hot tub stream. Don't worry.
Yeah.
No. You guys were 100% my kind of my gateway drug into Twitch. It's funny because as we've kind of alluded to, we have these intersecting circles of friends, and I use that term loosely because they're mostly your guys' friends, and I'm like I feel like an outsider who's just like wants to be part of the circle.
Yeah.
Very much so. No, it is like, but to a certain degree, yes, because and I don't know the genesis of all the friendships, but I feel like a lot of the ones that I'm aware of were Ice and Fire Con, just because of that seems to be our main central, in the Venn diagram where the overlaps lay. It's like a Song of Ice and Fire is the big overlap. There's a lot of other overlaps, but that was
Lydia went to IU with me.
I did not know
that.
Yeah,
Lydia
overlapped for a year. Yeah,
Lydia's one of the folklorists that go to Ice and Fire Con.
Well, I know Lydia very well. I had no idea that she was a Hoosier.
She's from Indianapolis. She went to Butler for undergrad. Yeah,
really. She might know what. Oh my gosh, I have to talk to Lydia a little bit closer because two of my best friends from high school went to Butler.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I said, like there's so many. I have so many Indiana connections. I went to a very small school in Iowa, but because we went to this very small school, what we would do is we spent a lot of our time visiting friends who went to bigger schools. So Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, all those schools, even Ohio State, Daisy. We we would go visit.
Cincinnati ever? My alma mater.
So funny story, not Cincinnati, but my cousin lived on the Xavier campus. So
so feasibly, if your cousin went to Xavier, he would have taken you to UC to party because.
Well, he didn't go to Xavier. He lived on the Xavier campus.
Oh, okay.
So he was so this is when we were in 8th grade. So one of my I would spend summers with him in Cincinnati. They went to Moeller High School. That's where they went.
Yeah, Moeller. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they were Moeller kids. He eventually went to Tennessee, or one of my cousins went to Tennessee. The other one went to Boston College. But we would spend a lot of times. In fact, I helped them move into their house on the Xavier campus.
Like in Norwood?
It was like I don't remember exactly where it was, but here's what I remember about it. I remember he moved in, and we were in like 7th, 8th grade, and so we got on the internet and we looked for the closest YMCA, and we walked to it. And Cincinnati is not really probably known as a very dangerous city or like one of those cities.
It was for a while. Yeah.
So if you walk to the YMCA that's closest to the Xavier campus, you had to walk through, pretty, at that point, it was a pretty segregated area, right? It was like an area that, and so it was like one of these, I'm trying to liken it to something that maybe someone more familiar would know, but it would essentially be at a point when, before they tore down Cabrini Green, like someone walking from the Moody Bible Institute through Cabrini Green to get to Lincoln Park, right?
Oh, I was going to say, it's a little like Who Framed Roger Rabbit because they built a highway right through that neighborhood to segregate it, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
same in Columbus.
Speaking of Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
the same highway. It's 71.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, this ties back to
no way. Is that the movie next week?
No, it's not. I wish it was.
That would be really weird. That would have been weird.
That would have been really great. We actually don't know who our guests are going to be next week.
We don't?
No, we don't. We the two ladies who were supposed to be the guests canceled, and they might be coming back. But the Roger Rabbit tie-in was with Oh Brother Where Art Thou? The sheriff was giving me a Judge Dredd type vibe, a little bit with the hat and the glasses with the reflection.
Well, the totally bald, right?
Yeah. Then the totally bald. Just as you said that, it made me think of it. So sorry guys, I got a little off topic.
Oh, you're walking to the YMCA.
But we were walking to the YMCA and we got into a situation where it was just it was just ignorance, right? It was just, if you've ever been someone who just walked into the wrong place because of straight ignorance, that was us on that day. So it was one of those eye-opening moments where I was like, okay, we should not just be just walking around willy-nilly. What does Mandolin here say? She says Jessica Rabbit, chunky version, at least in my head. Yeah,
I agree.
Hey, then you'd be the one Delmar O'Donnell pairs off with.
Yes.
Which, in that siren scene, did you guys read the siren who was Delmar's partner had mentioned how he had blushed quite a bit throughout that?
She was a babe.
She was a babe. She was a babe. You guys, it's been so great having you guys.
Did you finish the story?
Well, no, it was just basically, it was just us walking through a neighborhood, just being young 7th graders with very little idea. We're trying to just follow Google Maps. It was very Michael Scottish, where it's like, like where Dwight's saying like it's telling you to go into the pond, and we're like, I'm going to trust Google Maps, Dwight. Just relax. Yeah. Where we're like, you know what? There's people throwing stuff at us. Maybe we should not be going this way. It's like, hey, Pete, relax. We got the directions to the YMCA. We're going to go there. But yeah, it was just one of those instances where it was like, oh, okay, this is one of those learning experiences. It was just as a young kid kind of figuring out like, how ignorant you can actually be about just life.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Cincinnati was one of the most violent cities in America 20 years ago, and then they made the cops go to therapy.
Yeah.
Surprising how that actually has positive effects, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Weirdly enough,
big shocker.
it
Yeah.
actually pays off a little bit. Not to mention home of Skyline Chili, which
Yes.
Well,
hey,
which
speaking of, if you follow
Folkwise
us,
has a video about.
if you
That's
follow
right.
us on YouTube,
Yeah.
you can watch my Cincy Chili escapades with Dom's guidance. It was
I didn't
very
even
fun.
send you to Skyline though. I had
Yeah.
to go more obscure. Yeah.
Yes, it was really fun. So if
Which-
you want some suggestions, we've got it on our YouTube channel. It's great.
Yes, which does have some origins in the Greek culture. As a Greek,
right.
I do enjoy that.
Yeah. I wouldn't say all of them are Greek. Some of them are
no, not all.
what is now North Macedonia, and I know that's
yes.
a very
That's-
touchy subject. But
Nope, that's a good point. Much more Macedonian than Greek, and that is very touchy. But
the Lamborghinis at Skyline, the Lamborghini brothers,
what else was I? Oh yeah, no. I did love that video. What I was gonna say is actually, Dom, you owe me a video, or you actually owe me a recipe. You had something. It was like a Greek mashup. It was an Italian Greek mashup of maybe either pasticcio or.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, I gotta look for what that was. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
That was a Sicilian thing that my brother made. I do owe you that.
Yeah,
he leaves for Greece Wednesday. He's taking his family to Thessaloniki, so I gotta get it before he leaves.
Yes. Get it before he leaves. Also, remember, I'm not on Facebook any longer for a short period of time.
Are you in the Discord? Because
I'm in the Discord.
Yeah. Hop in the Folkwise Discord for all the fun discussion that happens after the show. There.
That's right. That's a good point. And we will get you. We're going to be figuring out what our next group of movies are here shortly. So we'll get that out to you tomorrow. You'll be able to vote on that on the Facebook group for TKOK Podcasts. Dom and Daisy, this was a dream come true. I got to be on History of Westeros last Sunday. I get to have you guys this Monday. Yeah. And so,
and you've been on, and you were briefly on Folkwise once.
Yeah.
Briefly. Yeah. Unintentionally.
Unintentionally. When you bought me a pizza as I was playing Zelda. What a fucking champ move.
So fun. Yeah.
That was a solid move.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moves where it's like, I was like, I have an opportunity here. I'm listening, I'm watching, and you know what? Oh yeah, Mandy asked, did I get Facebook jail? No, I actually had my Facebook account hacked. I don't know.
Yeah.
They took it over.
You and the president of the American Folklore Society had your Facebooks hacked.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I have nothing knock on wood, nothing nefarious has happened, but I just don't have access to it. I'm locked out. They changed all my passwords. They changed the email address. Hopefully we get that turned around here quickly. It is weird. I do feel oddly disconnected without it. It's I hate to say that. I hate to admit it. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but I do feel oddly
digital community.
Yeah. Because there's so many people like you guys that I interact with almost primarily through Facebook
in groups. Yeah.
That I look at. I mean, I do consider you guys my friends, as sad as that is. And I'm like,
sad.
It is sad because, there's a lot of people who I don't talk to or I've never met that I'm like, these are my friends. These are my people. I feel disconnected when I don't hear from them or when I don't know what's happening.
Next Ice and FireCon, just think of the photo op that's going to happen of the three of us together. That's going to get immediately posted on the Folkwise Instagram. It's going to be a great time.
Me, you, Steve Cantu, we're just gonna get some very curvy man action photography going.
And I gotta tell you, Steve James and I might have found what we're baking at Ice and FireCon.
Ooh, the Yeasty Boys? The Yeasty Boys are onto something?
The Yeasty Boys have been onto something, yeah. That is to say, how well do you know the traditional foods of West Virginia?
That makes me horny.
I know exactly what you're gonna be making.
I know
exactly.
Crazy. We're gonna go crazy with it. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh my god! You know what? I just
I'll send you money to make me veggie ones.
Oh no, we're thinking about doing apple pie and sharp cheddar too, dessert ones.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Well, and we have a connection. She was on one of the episodes of New Dad. She is the vulva of a heathen group. I'm trying to remember the exact name that they go by.
This isn't Kevin Smith, I guess.
Like,
It's
what
not
is
Kevin
this?
Smith, but she makes mead, and she's gonna bring some to the next
Let's fucking go.
the next the next Ice and Fire Con.
Con, as
Yeah.
Steve says.
Yeah.
Con.
No, I'm really excited to actually like get to hang out with you guys in person whenever it may happen soon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
and you guys have done your plugs. I wanted to plug Girls Gone Canon. They are going to be on an
Someday.
upcoming. They are going to be on an upcoming episode. It's not going to be our next one. It's probably going to be our first episode in August, and we're hoping to have Ashaya on our last episode of July. We're just looking to fill that first.
Ooh.
We're just looking to fill that first episode of July now.
Mhm.
We're hoping it's the So Problematic podcast, but not sure. We're still waiting to hear back. If not,
Can I ask a fun question that is in
Yeah.
no way like binding contractual obligation?
for sure.
If you could have any guest from Folkwise as a guest on Movie Club, who would it be?
That is really good. I mean,
Hot Ones moment.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
us,
yeah.
Liz.
that is really good. No, I mean my initial reaction is Death Loris, just because I've had the most interaction with
Loris in the
Death
chat.
Loris.
What up?
Death
Yeah.
Loris in the chat.
And because as I mentioned in the History of Westeros episode on Father's Day, this is long-term stuff, but I'm talking with Death Loris about doing a podcast that might be under the TKOK umbrella
Hell
for reality
yeah.
TV.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's something
Yes,
I want.
really
fun.
So we're waiting to see.
Oh, there
Yeah.
she is.
Yeah.
When I learned about her love for Bravo on your guys'
Oh my
Oh my
episode,
gosh. Yes.
Fearless.
good.
that for me was like, because that's my wheelhouse for trash
Yes.
reality TV. It's like
Totally.
my wife consumes all things Bravo.
Oh, hell yeah.
As a supportive partner, I watch and support.
I mean, hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Caitlin
That'd be
Kinney,
very cool.
aka
Yeah.
Death Loris. Yeah, I mean, I want to get something with her going. That's like probably the next big thing on the TKOK bucket list. We want to get a reality TV show podcast out there covering it, not just Bravo, but I want to branch out. I mean, like I love 90 Day Fiance. There's so many
Yeah.
others that I think we need to get into.
Okay. Shout out to Provo's Most Eligible.
Oh my God.
Provost
Wait,
Most
hold on.
Eligible.
Do y'all okay, wait. I don't know if you know. Have you seen Provost Most Eligible?
No,
Okay, it's like a
Oh.
YouTube miniseries that's basically like a dating show. But get this, the older sister of the main guy, the bachelor of Provost Most Eligible, is a folklorist who was in my cohort.
Yeah.
And so so I got all the deets on the behind the scenes of that, which is
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Honestly, Provo's the first oh no, maybe like not the first not the first Twitch streamer I followed, but I got heavily invested in a Twitch community because they were reviewing Provo's Most Eligible.
done. I'm putting it in my
Yeah.
notes.
Oh my god.
we gotta get
so
yeah,
good.
we gotta get Rachel
Yeah.
on our show.
Yeah, like there's one one of the bachelorettes just goes like, "Hey, my ex is back from his mission, so I'm picking him over you." Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? To answer your question, because I do want to give it, like, I don't want to just like straight up give my gut reaction. So, Folkwise live guess, gosh,
Oh, sorry, Caitlin.
no, yeah, no. I mean, Caitlin Kinney's really good. Who was the individual you had on that was talking about? Maybe it was just 2 weeks ago. About the festivals in DC.
Kim Stryker.
Kim is
Kim
fun.
Kim Stryker. Kim
She's so much
Stryker?
fun. Yeah. At the Smithsonian Folklore.
Kim is
Festival.
cool.
Yeah.
Kim
Yeah.
Stryker was one that was surprised me, just because it was one of those where I did, when I see you guys release or when you guys announce a host, right? I'll try to do my little bit of research and I dig in and I'm like, okay, like let me try to find
That's how you said it's the good questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
let me try to find a good question,
Yeah.
right?
We love it,
and-
folks.
And that was one where I did the research and I just wasn't sure, just based on what was available out there, right? I was like, okay, Kim Kim seems cool. That seems like very much smarter than I. So I'm going to tune in just because I feel like I will learn a lot. But I was really surprised on how engaging and how entertaining that interview was. How much I learned from that. So Kim was one that I mean, really, I feel like your last 4 interviews. I feel like your last 4 interviews have just been really on fire,
that would
right?
be Kim. That would be Kim, Emmy, Kathleen, and Libby.
Yes. Those 4. I mean, and granted, like you can't go wrong having like a really intelligent female guest, right? But like, I just felt like the topics were so unrelated, so intriguing on their own,
and for people watching this who weren't there for the interviews, the topics ranged from the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, the Burlesque Hall of Fame, humanities in Nevada, but also competitive Super Smash Bros. And ghost stories.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea. Like if you turn into Folkwise Live, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't even know what people's preconceived notions of folklore are, because with mine, they were, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. It was just kind of like, I thought it was boring, like, I don't know what I thought it was. And I was,
didn't you say your Yaya is a ghost? Come on.
Yes. I have lots of ghost stories.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy thing. Like, I guess I don't know what my idea of folklore was before I started Folkwise Live.
Yeah.
But I know that since watching you guys, it's expanded exponentially. And it was like a really exciting expansion, right? Like it was from the first episode. And you guys asked like what turned me on to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was other than I think it was I mentioned that you guys stood out to me individually before I knew you guys were podcast hosts, right? Just as maybe it was just a charisma type, just a charisma type thing. I don't know what it was. I don't know. Like, you guys are both, I find, immensely adorable in your own ways, and just completely like, in different ways, right?
Movements now.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like it was just one day. I don't even know how
Daisy,
long into the
folk screen grab it.
Yeah, into the Folkwise movement. I kind of jumped into it, but like I just know that the first episode I saw, I was just like, holy shit! Like there's like a vacuum in my life for all of this information.
Yeah,
and they're just like pushing it down my throat, and that's what I want right now. I want more of it. I mean, like, it was one of those things where I was like legitimately bummed when my drum lessons popped up on Tuesdays, and I was like, oh, that's the only day I can do it, because
you still show up though. You still show up.
Yeah,
I do. I try to get in there between the drum lessons. I really quickly. I'll do some stuff like right before I leave for the house, and then literally I'm like in my car after the drum lesson, like pulling up Twitch and trying to figure out where you guys are. Be like,
that's so sweet.
Did they answer my questions yet? No, they haven't. Okay, like just trying to figure out where you guys are in the whole thing. And also just I feel like it is an appropriate time to give you guys props for your skill as hosts and technical directors of a show. Last week there were some technical difficulties, I would say.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Whole game went down. The game went down as we were playing it. The devs had to patch it.
Outside of your guys' like not something on your guys and anyone's. It was like something completely a third party type deal.
Yes.
You guys handled it like pros. You would have never realized like it was a thing. I was so impressed by it, because just like in the beginning of this episode, when things were a little, the connection wasn't great. I don't know if you guys could see on the screen. I was sweating bullets. I was like so preoccupied.
Dude, no, we literally could not see. You were coming in so
you did look like a potato. So
okay, perfect.
That's you can see the eye.
But now, you've been great since the squid conversation.
I think it was the squid. It was the
squid. Yeah.
Giant squids.
Yeah.
Y'all. But yeah, no, you guys are. Just if anyone's out there listening still and they're trying to figure out like, should I be listening to this Folkwise show? Why should I tune in? Not only is the content fantastic, but the hosts are extremely talented, as you probably have noticed throughout the 3 hours we've been talking.
And I
today.
know a lot of people who aren't gamers, like you mentioned earlier. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people who aren't gamers who just put it on in their like headphones to
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. And
1000%.
even if you just make it, we post all the schedules ahead of time. So if you check in, see what time the interview is. If you just tune in for the interview, you check out our YouTube channel, we split up the highlights into the interview and the gameplay. And if you can choose what you want to be part of when you watch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
We totally had guests tell us they only watched the interviews.
Yeah. Yes.
And you know what? That's fine, because
Yeah.
I think you guys do a really great job of finding video games that are, like applicable to the folklore that you're talking about.
We try.
We
Yeah.
try.
But even if it's not, I think it's some of my favorite moments are when Dom is like really intently focused on the video game and just not talking at all. And Daisy has to just run the show for probably 2 minutes.
Say some stuff. Yeah.
I
she's
also
like,
that also tends to happen when I can tell Daisy's gonna say something smart, because like Daisy
Aw.
hasn't like burned out their brain in PhD school yet.
Not
like
yet.
I have.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was as smart and talkative as you in my younger days.
now I'm thinking about, I wonder if people who watch the show interpret it that way, because I'm just thinking about Mario talking about how he thought that the best quote is, "I thought I knew how to speak English until I heard Daisy talk on the show."
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just say some bonkers stuff sometimes. But
no, there are times that you can make someone feel very unintelligent.
No, I think they're talking about when they say stuff like "Where horse, how run."
yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I'm surprised it comes across that I'm saying smart stuff, because most of the time I'm like, horse big, find horse now. Like,
Give apple, horse hungry.
oh yeah, horse hunger for apple.
Well, I would say most of the time. I would say that's maybe like a 1% thing. Most of the time, you're saying really intelligent things and caring stuff. And honestly, you guys said Hades is the next game you're playing.
Yeah,
I notice it mostly with Hades when Dom is
That's
having
true,
to fight like a big boss in Hades.
there are some moments. Yeah,
hard fucking game.
Yeah, it's a hard game. Yeah,
I can't imagine. Imagine. Just like doing one thing is hard enough, but playing a video game and trying to like interview and talk, so difficult. I'm
gonna be one of the sleuths for questions for Bobby Geiger on the show. And a sneak peek question is going to be about vaporwave, and that's all I'm going to share.
Nice.
Vaporwaves, yes.
Yeah.
So, I know you guys were talking about it while I was offline. The next guest is Bobby Geiger.
Yes, Dr. Robert Geiger. Yeah.
Where's he at? He just got a new job at Chapman College in Orange County, right?
Yep, in Orange County.
And what's going to be the major topic of discussion?
Well, we are going to talk about myth, which is kind of how he started to get into folklore. And we've talked about it before, but he's got some really interesting takes on how that's evolved and gets represented in games in which, or video games, but stories in which you get to participate as like an active role in the narrative. So when you play a video game, you're creating the story in a way. And so that's kind of cool. And then we're going to talk about meta gaming folklore. So the folklore that happens between the gamers and online communities and stuff like that. So what kind of equipment you have, like, memes, different groups, just how you talk about video games, how many games you play, those kind of relationships that build from different
I'm going to try to punch the Minotaur to death like normal.
Yeah. Yeah, just like regular. So it'll be fun.
I think can I address, I'm going to Twitch brain, but can I address Mandolin in the chat?
Yeah.
Talking about okay.
Yeah.
Well, the next three. So like she's an anthropology major and she saw it as a series of stories passed down, and that's like one definition. Or it's just his definition. And this last one, it's a lifestyle, a movement, and more. It's wider defined. And I think what it is the definition that that like folklorists would have, as opposed to anthropologists, would be folklore is passing stuff down. And I know like, stories are something, a lot of people here, or the first forms of folklore you engage with are like stories that get passed down. And we talked a lot about the Odyssey, which is a story we are still passing down from Bronze Age Greece. But I think what we're getting at with folklore, especially on the show, is passing things that get passed down. Yeah.
And In that note, I don't know where this, like, it probably doesn't fit in with the show, but it does fit in with folklore. But one of my favorite things about folklore is like small town folklore, right? Like,
Yeah.
I grew up in a tiny town, like a very small town on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, right?
Mhm.
Pretty much nothing significant about it outside that the film Groundhog Day was filmed there.
Oh, okay.
So that's significant in and of itself. But just thinking back, like tons of folklore, right? Like
Yeah.
we have a haunted opera house, right? And that story, Elvira, is huge, like a huge. We have a
What?
yeah. So we have a house. There's a house that was built with no corners, right? And the folklore that surrounded that house, because
That sounds very spooky.
yes,
A house with no corners.
so let me just
Yeah.
like spit some quick Woodstock, Illinois knowledge on you guys. So there's a house. So this is how the folklore goes, right? I don't know the actual story. I just know the folklore.
I mean, at this point, I think it's the actual story. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was I need to take this back. Outside of Woodstock, there's a very rich area called Bull Valley, right? The bigger houses, more affluent. Within Bull Valley, there was a house that was always known. This goes back to when like my parents were kids and living in Woodstock, as a devil worshiper's house, right? It's just out there. It's a devil worshiper's house. So
Wow.
there was a house built across the street from the devil worshiper's house, and the people who built that house were kind of new agey and believed that spirits lived in corners. So when they built the house, they didn't want to build a house with any corners. So
I just
they
made the hog face. I just
know,
made my
like-
hype.
so they went and they found a general contractor who would build a house with no corners. Well, here's where the folklore really comes in.
Oh.
The general contractor said, due to geometry, we can't build a house with no corners. The house has to have a corner. So we can build a round house, but it has to have a corner.
Okay.
Oh my
And
God.
so they acquiesced. Sure, build a corner. Well, the original homeowner was found dead in the corner.
No! Oh my
corner.
God.
That's a
We
little
gotta
piece.
go. Send us
So-
pictures. We gotta go.
Yeah,
Outside of Elvira, the Woodstock Opera House, we have the
Wow.
house with no corners. We also have the Bull Valley Monster. So
Oh
just
my gosh.
we got some
Yeah,
folklore.
yes,
We got some
yeah.
folklore.
For sure.
Woodstock is claiming Bull Valley, by the way. We're claiming Bull Valley, even though Bull Valley don't want to claim Woodstock.
I'm sure that's contentious.
Yes, it is. It's a little contentious. It's a little contentious.
That
But,
is the like Thrace, North Macedonia of
Yes.
the Midwest.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 100%. So, and actually, Daisy, my original plan was to send you all of these like little snippets on Woodstock folklore,
Oh my
and
God.
for your S tier or for your tier list, it was going to be ranking Woodstock haunted stories.
Oh, that could be
but
fun.
That's just
yeah.
something we should just do.
We should
off
just
the
do
call one day.
that.
Hey,
Yeah.
I've
I
already
think,
I've reached out to Daisy a long time ago and said I
Yeah.
want to be on the show in
Yeah,
some
like,
form or
When,
fashion.
yeah, like when you're on the show, that'll
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
good too.
Yeah,
we can make that
we can
choice.
do that.
We'll try
We-
to surprise you probably, but that
It's
would
okay.
be it's a very good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
much, and you know it's okay if it's like History of Westeros and it takes
Yeah.
me 3 to 5 years to break onto the show. It's
No,
okay.
No,
It's
no.
okay.
I'll remind you. Maybe you just have to keep buying pizza.
Hey,
Part
or
of that.
I don't know how many bits does the pizza cost. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't-
Oh, that's
you know,
true.
I'll just keep
After
sending
Amazon
bits.
Sends off the top. We'll see.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's just add it up. We'll do some math later.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep you guys anymore. It's Monday night. We're
Oh my God.
it's almost 1:00 your guys' time. I'll let you guys go. This was a true pleasure for me.
Are you gonna edit the part where we just talk folklore for an hour?
No, I'm not. I don't think so. Well, you know what? My plan is to go back and
Oh my
edit
gosh.
all of these at some point. But for right now, I think
For right now,
Oh my
what's your longest episode?
this is easily this is easily
Oh my
the
gosh.
longest
Wow,
episode.
okay.
Easily,
You see
easily.
that shit?
Hey,
Oh,
can I let you know something, Tommy? This is going on my CV.
Yeah,
I was
This is on my
interviewed
CV.
as a folklorist, media appearance.
that's right.
Comedy.
Put it on your mixtape.
Yes.
I'm gonna give it to my next love interest.
Yes.
Listen to
exactly.
this. Death Laura says this has been amazing.
Definitely. You got to work in the morning. What the hell?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, go to bed.
Yeah. And
If
Death Laura,
she's
don't
not-
worry.
she's not
That
computing,
microphone's in the
that'll
mail. Yeah. No. it's been fantastic having you
Poggers.
guys. It's been amazing having you all on.
In the parlance of Twitch, it's been absolutely based and pog-pilled.
Yes.
Yeah. What else can
Completely.
we say? I had
Completely.
some big omega lulls.
Yeah.
Tech W's. You know,
That's right.
It's been absolutely turbo pog.
Ladders in the chat.
Yes, ladders in the
everyone,
chat,
ladders in
everybody.
chat.
Everybody have a great night.
Yeah, it was so good having you guys. Thank
Yeah,
you so
thanks
much.
again.
Hold on, can I make a ladder in chat?
Can you?
Can I,
I don't know
like-
if you can.
Good luck.
Yeah, let's see if you can.
Nope.
Well, I'll say while you're trying to do that, just make sure you are subscribed to the TKOK podcast YouTube channel, and also get
There
over
we go.
to
Ladders in chat.
there we
Ladders
go,
in chat.
ladders
Yeah.
in chat. Get over to our Facebook group. Make sure you are following Folkwise over in Twitch. Tomorrow night we are
Yeah.
going to be seeing them.
Tomorrow night.
I'll be over there. You'll see me in the chat. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
hope
be
to
very
see
cool.
you guys all there tomorrow.
Oh, that
Daisy.
looks good, Caitlin. That's a good
Yeah,
ladder.
Caitlin's
It does. That's a
good.
really
Yeah.
great ladder.
Yeah.
Let's show that. Ladders in the chat. GG's, as they say in the Twitch
GG's.
world.
Yeah,
GG's.
GG's.
Jeez, everyone.
You guys, I probably said this 100 times, but thank you so much. It's
Yeah.
really been a pleasure for
Aw.
me.
Thanks
It
for
was-
having us on.
Bye,
It's been such
everyone.
a fun day.
Made a dream come true tonight. Folkwise Live. Thank you so much. And for everyone, we're going to be back on July 12th. That will be, I believe, our July 12th, 13th, or 14th, somewhere in there. That'll be our next episode. Stay tuned to find out who will be our guest, because I don't know either.
Yeah.
All right. Daisy Dom, thank you.
Yeah. See
Take
ya.
care.
Thank you.